So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the ADHD Reframe Project with me, host Emma. And today I am joined by guest Elizabeth Victoria Evans. Elizabeth is a film producer, and I'm really grateful that you've agreed to join me today. So, hello, Elizabeth. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing very well, Emma, and how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, a little bit hectic as always, a little bit chaotic. But yeah, no, I'm good. Are you enjoying your long weekend or are you working?
It's kind of I just got back from the Oscar Bright Film Festival, doing some filming there actually. Just sort of basically documenting for the documentary film that I'm producing, but I'm also directing and but now it's going to be more co-producing because just the way it all hands out and things. But yeah, so my weekend has been recovery actually. Um, I say recovery, just a lot of travel
Okay.
and a lot of you have to be ready to go when it's a documentary because you don't have the luxury of crafting the world exactly how you want it to be seen. It's there's a lot of real world things that make it into the movie. Let's just be honest about it. Um so yeah, I've been enjoying not doing anything, which
Okay,
is
yeah,
nice
that
for
makes
a
sense.
change.
Yeah, so I can imagine like having ADHD, autism, or whatever you've been diagnosed with, which we can talk about a little bit if you feel comfortable in a minute. But I can imagine that, like for me, being around a lot of people all the time is really like overstimulating, and I just feel like I need to go and sit in a dark, quiet room and just relax, just to kind of quieten down the heightened sensitivity.
Oh, 100%. Uh, so I guess when I say I've been doing nothing, I've been rewiring because for me, primarily, so I have autism primarily. I have autism burnout, which is probably why I've been just taking it easy last couple days. But I've also been doing a bit of work in the background because that industry never stops. There's always something you need to do. Um, but the nature of where I was. So, for example, at the Oscar Bright Film Festival, we just got back. I say we, my team and I. And one thing that was noticeable to me were access clashes, which, for those that don't know, is when, so for example, I have autism, um, perhaps working with somebody who's got ADHD. Um, you know, the employment and the industry as it stands, it's still not prepared to find a way that people can communicate together in a way that is time productive and helpful and things running smoothly. So did I encounter access clashes at the world's biggest disabled and learning disabled film festival in the world whilst filming? Absolutely, but I was prepared for that. But
Okay.
still, you still end up encountering things you hadn't planned for because it's still quite not enough work has been done, which is why I'm making the film Where Do You Want Us? Because and that question is asked as if like not not like in a like where do you want me? More like, well, where do you want me then? Like in in a forceful way because so many people I know, or they're more than qualified to do the job, but because they're misunderstood, um, people, it's like they just don't take them seriously. So obviously in the film, it's all explained as going to real detail about that.
Mm.
But even me, who's neurodivergent, I wouldn't say I'm 100% up to date on everything. Okay, and people I'm close with, I still people might be really good friends, but we still have access clashes in the workplace, or whether it's on location, because there is no one size fits all thing. I do feel with some people I've worked with, and also myself included, that, and I've had it myself, that people, uh, I think if it wasn't for all the work that I do, they might not want to work with me because of my neurodivergence,
Wow.
and also with some of the people that I've worked with. So for me, I feel like, you know, I don't want to say I'm an absolute angel. I'm not, but I know that I've worked with people long after that point where a lot of people would have given up on them. And I hate talking about myself, but I think if you have family with ADHD, for example, and I do, and friends, and again I do,
Yeah.
um, I think you get used to identifying traits in other people as well.
Yep.
So that is something that really helps. Definitely,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think as a whole, like, I know that we are moving into a more, um, inclusive society, I think. Right, we're taking tiny steps as along as we go, but there's still a long way to go, if that makes sense. So, there's
yeah.
unfortunately still a lot of, like, stigma and misinformation, and it's still very, it can be, quite fearful, I think, because if you don't feel safe in an environment, then you're just not gonna want to kind of push yourself to be in that environment again. But then equally, if we don't show up and talk about our experiences, then things are never gonna really kind of change, are they?
No, and I mean they will change because people like you and me are doing something about it,
Yeah,
which is, I keep saying this all the time, doing the work, but
yeah,
it's not just doing the work, it's doing the real work.
yeah,
I learned a new word yesterday, and it sums up most people in most industries. And I can't remember the word because it was so long and obscure, but it's an English word. Um, and what was the definition was basically, some people might actually be googling trying to find out the definition after I say what it means, is when it's like, oh, uh, we want to be seen to be doing inclusion, and we want to be seen to be doing, like, we understand, we're here to help you. But at the same time, it's just a job for them, and they don't want to push. They don't want to see those people succeed. It's just it looks good that they're helping them, but um, they're not really interested in actually doing the work.
and are they really helping? This is the thing.
Well, I was trying to interview a young lad actually who made a nice film, and I was at the festival, and no names, but someone came along and pushed him away, and he was more than capable. It wasn't a time issue,
Bless him.
but they were more than capable of being interviewed, and obviously I saw him answer some questions as part of an event, and I'm like, wow, this guy is doing it, and very creative. And why why are you scared of letting him talk to me? I mean, I'm like the safest press a neurodivergent or disabled person can speak to,
Yeah.
and they were pushing them away, and I'm like, I'm for my crew, and I'm like, what's going on, you know? So to me, I got a sense of, it looks great that they're doing all these things and things, this individual, but then they were pushing this individual away. And I'm like, what's the point in making a film or anything if it's not going to get seen, you know?
Yeah.
So I think from my experiences going to like the world's biggest disability film festival, my takeaway linked to what we were just saying, is you need to be more open to press, you know? Because and people that can help. neurodivergent or disabled people with press. And again, that's just something that just does not really exist right now, unfortunately. I
So
don't
when
know
you
why, but it's a long way to go. A
yeah,
long way to go, and not just the industry that I'm in, but employment in general. I do in the movie talk about employment a lot.
yeah,
Uh, I think neurodivergence can be a trickier one because it's not like somebody walks into a room and they're in a chair and you can more or less kind of guess what their access needs are.
yeah.
Whereas maybe someone who comes across more or less as neurotypical, but then after spending time with them, you do realize, oh, actually, I have a nice pin that arrived the other day, which I'm going to start wearing more often, and it's got a butterfly, and around it it says, "Not all disabilities are visible."
Oh,
And I thought that was lovely. So, and my mum actually saw me wear it the other day, and I got her one.
I've got my partner bought me this for Christmas and my birthday. It's the lanyard that I can wear, and it says, "Please, I have ADHD. Please be patient with me."
Oh, that's nice. I was
Got
quite
the
disappointed
same
you showed it to
on
me,
the
but
yeah.
that's nice.
So, oh, did I say show it to you the wrong way round? I'm
Oh,
sorry.
no,
And
no,
then
on the camera, it's because it's like a mirror, I think it was the wrong way was it?
I don't know, anyway.
Don't
But
worry
yeah, it's a little card anyway, and then it says, "I have ADHD superpowers, please be kind." Although I don't really kind of worry about the superpowers,
Oh,
language and narrative, it doesn't bother
yeah,
me, but I know
people
people
need to be more patient with neurodivergent people, which is another problem with employment. A lot of people, I feel, because they haven't been touched by ADHD, autism, anything along that spectrum.
yeah,
It's like if they had a child that had it, or a sibling, or a parent, or whoever, or a best friend, uh, they would notice it in people and be able to go, oh, okay, well, that's fine. I deal with this before, and this person can more than do the job. So that shouldn't stop them then from remaining in employment and progressing in a career. And unfortunately, um, most people, you don't need to go on the internet and Google statistics. I can tell you now, they're not good for people remaining in a career, getting the actual job that they want. If the neurodivergence, whether it's ADHD or whatever, is noticeable to a degree that the people that they work around who perhaps aren't, very impatient. And as I say, the statistics show that these people do struggle to remain in employment. Um, and things like that. And again, it's no surprise that a lot of sort of really successful people who are neurodivergent are self-employed. Elon Musk as a really good example of that. He really struggled with his neurodivergence as a child. So and into adulthood. So it's no surprise, such as myself, actually, in order to be taken seriously in an industry that does not really understand neurodivergence. I'm talking about the British film and television industry. Uh, yeah, and there's a lot of working up to do
yeah.
because what we're not, what the problem is, right? Unlike, and I am waffling, I do
No,
apologize.
waffle away because 'cause I'm
I'm
just
very
gonna sit and
passionate about
listen.
this
I
point.
I I love this. This is great, so please just
Okay, I
waffle
just
away.
okay, all right, cool.
No, waffle, it's
Oh,
fine.
I
We've
love it.
got all day. Don't worry.
So the point I was going to make was that at any point, unlike sorry, I've got my stealing toy for those wondering one who didn't notice before that I've got this in my hand. Um, oh, I what was I saying? Yes, that was it. That's my autism. You see, I have to remind myself where I am. Unlike things like diversity things that we see in film and TV, this is just an example, right? Well, that's great, but any human being on the planet, right, can have a disability and probably will, particularly of old age, right? Regarding neurodiversity and things like that, and neurodivergence, you can be diagnosed late in life, and things affect you later in life. So I didn't get my diagnosis till a couple, maybe what, 5 years, 6 years ago now. I forget the actual date, but it was around that time. Well, I'd always suspected something was um, different about me in terms of how my brain worked. Um, but as I say, it didn't affect me to the degree where I felt, oh, I need to go get a diagnosis. But in later life, it's become harder to mask.
Yeah.
And to and to just try and that kind of like celebrity self we all have, where we try to just not false, but you know, that people when they work with me, they eventually they do see my face, and people say to me, "Oh, I can see the autism in your face," and I'm like, "You probably can because as I'm more comfortable around people, it does go, which is great for me because um, it's very tiring to mask and to hide,
Yeah.
who what your personality and your brain is really like. So, um, as I say, at any point in your life, uh, those two things, whether it's a disability or neurodivergence, or ADHD or anything like that, we all change, our bodies change. So it's no surprise that unlike most things that affect some people and minorities, which tends to be the focus right now, minorities, um, had well, considering this affects us all, regardless of what we look like or what we believe, come on, like, take it more seriously in the workplace. I mean, I don't feel like we're asking for a lot. But the British film industry and other industries, just I think the UK as a whole, we're just so used to keeping the British end up or whatever it's called, and just being a bit kind of like just get on with it. And that ain't good enough for people with neurodivergence
Mm.
because their brain doesn't work that way. So you kind of it's making allowances without taking the mick, I think.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot of research and studies that need to be done, and I tell you what, I've met some amazing people, doing, studies at university. Either they're going for a doctorate or they already have a doctorate and, um, actually trying to, uh, change how we think about that in academia, which is important in order to get studies done,
Yeah.
because that's the kind of information that people tend to trust more than news. Oh, a study has been done, blah blah blah. Well, they're in the film, so people can learn all about them and find them. And I've been very blessed to know that right now there is more being done than there ever has been before, and that's because it's not because we have the internet. It's not because of things like that you'd think it was because of that, but people are just more open to talking about it, which is why people are doing studies at university now to try to make this easier now rather than that kind of gray area where we're all struggling.
Yeah.
And if it will help employers and people that don't struggle with these things, that it can only serve to help everybody because then we all have the same information on how this this new way of functioning can be applied to the everyday world, and I think that's really important to understand.
Yeah. And I think as well, so, oh my God, there were so many things that you said then that I've probably already forgotten because
It's all in the movie, don't worry. So all those points I just made, and ones I haven't mentioned. Um, as I say, funny enough, yesterday I was writing down my like narration over the film, like Louis Theroux does, and I was just making sure that those points, and then when we see actual evidence of it, trying to be as objective as possible,
yeah,
um, hey, here's a prime example of this problem in action and potential solutions. Great. And but as I say, we live in a time where there's more being done about it. Yes, it's still a struggle, and there's still a lot of work to do, but we are getting there. So, you doing this podcast, I suppose me making this documentary, it is helping.
Yeah.
One thing by itself isn't going to change the world, but the more of us that do sort of like media exposure around it, and coming from a good place of, well, I know what it's like. I want to help um, other people so that they don't have to go through some of the situations
Yeah.
that I've had to, the unfortunate situations that I've had to go through, or be treated a certain way because my brain works differently, or I come across as a bit of a weirdo. Um, it's nice to know that it's getting better, and gradually these things don't happen overnight. So for example, on particularly with what I've just been saying, that it's kind of like 2030 is supposed to be this like UK film and TV goal of total inclusion, right? If you look on the website, type in 2030 film and TV, you'll find it probably. Um, I won't name drop anyone, but it's almost like uh, if you're an organization trying to hold to account the big broadcasters, the companies that have a UK branch here, big household names, if I said them, you probably know who I'm talking about. At the moment, they're kind of all being held to account in a way uh, by certain bodies here in the UK. Well, 2030 is fine, but look at where we are now. We're in April 2026. You can't tell me in 4 years' time we're going to have absolute total conclusion. That's how it's phrased in the industry. For those of us who know, well, that ain't going to happen. You're way overshooting a few more
Yeah.
decades, perhaps, because we're understanding new things all the time.
Yeah.
So, as I say, that's why it's important that you do what you do, and for me, the focus right now is to get this film shot and seen.
Yeah. And if you need to interview me, I'm happy to be participating in your little whatever you're doing. Um, so yeah, I don't know if you're focusing on autism or whether you're going for just neurodivergence as a whole, but I'm happy to talk and be
Oh,
videoed.
I'm doing disability and neurodivergence.
Yeah.
Um,
So
I
I have fibro as well as complex PTSD and ADHD and depression and anxiety and yeah, all the fun things that come with it. So
I
yeah,
know I used to get the anxiety a lot, um, uh, particularly when I was in my 20s,
yeah.
you know. Um, oh, but yeah,
I think what you've just said, like I think there's a couple of things that I will kind of pick up on and I think for women, we're in a generation where we are becoming more known about. We are becoming there's more awareness around, you know, neurodivergence and women, and the academia that you mentioned. Like I'm studying psychology at the moment, so I think, and I'm gonna just this might be a little bit controversial, but I'd like to just say that academia as a whole is not necessarily inclusive because they expect you to learn in a neurotypical way,
mm,
write and submit in a neurotypical way, and then you get marked. This hasn't happened to me, but some students get marked down because of their neurodivergence, and it's like,
oh,
hang on
100%.
a minute, like what are you why what are you doing, like?
Mm,
And I've done a lot of advocacy work within my university and stuff, just trying to kind of get them to understand them, I say, decision makers to kind of understand that there's no one straight line. We're
mm,
not linear if you're neurodivergent. there's lots of things that even that, some of these bigger universities don't even really know about that can help. Um,
You
you
know,
know,
a lot of them, they do this thing where you have to speak their language in it when you're writing or submitting a thesis.
yeah,
So right now, funny enough, I've got a PhD Viva coming up in just over a month away, but and I'm just making a film. I'm also just one of the small things I'm doing is a PhD. Um, but I don't know how I do it all, but I do. And yes, I've encountered issues and things, but there's it's a double-edged sword in a way, because what you've just picked up on is what you have in a university, in some anyway. You have what's called disability support, and you get so many hours a week,
yeah,
or over the course of the academic year. And then obviously what you have is, oh great, I can talk to this person once a week, I can talk to this person once a week. And that's great. But there isn't anything in the workplace for that when you finish.
no,
So I think borrowing from that model would be great in any industry. It's something that I'm heavily involved with right now. Um, and let's just say there's not a manifesto, but there's as I say, once this documentary comes out, that's one of the other things I'll be doing. Who knows, when I've got doctor in front of my name, maybe they'll take me a bit more seriously. Um, but also that, what do you call it? Um, not the film, but uh,
documentary.
yeah, I think that, there's more creative freedom than, say, when you have to write a certain way.
Yeah,
But, yeah, so because I'm producing it and directing it, it's like I ain't got no limitations.
no,
It's is what it is, and yeah, I think that's really good. One of the things I was going to mention earlier was there's this little clip of me going around where I'm like, those that what was it? Those that it was just as an aside. I didn't think they'd use it, but I was like, those that show up, and that those that actually bothered to take part, uh, and the ones you see on screen will be the ones who bothered and showed up to make the movie, and that is true. So I haven't gone out of my way to get, for example, a neurodivergent crew, a disabled crew, right? Yes, I have people like that working with me, or maybe they're available for a certain time in a certain area, and I'm like, "Oh, come along and you'll be in the credits. Don't worry. Use this as part of a CV. It's an opportunity for everybody." And yeah, it's like great, but I haven't done what Hollywood likes to do a lot. So, for example, this film isn't something that would get touched by any of the UK broadcasters or any of the subsidiaries, the UK headquarters in this country of major Hollywood, but also the UK film companies that don't really roll off the tongue like they used to. Um, like, I mean, we used to have like what, like Ealing Studios, Hammer Studios, and now it's like, do people? Is it? What is it? Is it working title? That's one, isn't it, over here?
well, I've no idea.
Exactly right. It's like people just can't name them over here. I can name a few because I know, but as that's once this film is done and dusted, and the point is made, there will be some follow up stuff happening as well to make sure it's being implemented. But the other thing that I'm not an advocate person, documentary filmmaker. Um, it just happens to be I'm making a documentary on this subject right now. But after this, I'll be producing and writing and directing like genre films, British genre films, which we don't get. We do, but when you think of British film and television, I hate to say it, it's usually the kind of stuff that I don't really like period dramas and uh, you know, certain periods of history, and then they get sort of the history itself gets lied about by saying that it was easier for certain types of people back then and things like that. I'm like, why are you lying to your audience? You know, because if you pretend that these things didn't happen, similar in a similar way now, right? If you
Yeah,
pretend that things didn't happen, it'll happen again. History
yeah,
has taught us that.
yeah.
So I'm kind of hoping that we wake up a little bit more and around neurodivergence as well, because every type of person has experienced some form of prejudice or injustice, and it's like, great, well, let's make sure it doesn't happen, but don't lie in your programs, pretend these sort of people had it okay and they didn't, and things. So,
I think as well for me, like I've not worked uh, since 2019. Just after I was diagnosed with a fibro, my mental health was really bad as well for quite a few years. Then COVID hit, obviously, throughout all that. And I think for me, trying to find a job um, which is going to be something that is quite flexible, because obviously my not just the ADHD but the pain and the fatigue vary. And I've applied for quite a few things, and the feedback I get is primarily your passion and enthusiasm is clear for us to see, but and then I'm like, everything for me after "but" is bullshit. Excuse my language, but, yeah, but
no, I know, I've been there.
so,
Uh, yeah.
yeah, yeah, and, if you are neurodivergent or if you are perceived as the different person like that, it's like that hits hard some days. Like, some days that hits really hard, and I'm just, like, hesitant to kind of to try and find something else. Um, so yeah, it's like, so you talking about employment and talking about, and even for women, as we get older and our hormones fluctuate more
Hmm.
for ADHD and autistic women, the every time your estrogen drops, the dopamine in your brain, it decreases even less to what it is anyway. And then your symptoms get to a point where you're just like, I don't, like you said, you get to a point where you can't mask anymore because it's just exhausting. And it's like, that's one of the things that I like to talk about. I've given presentations within my university to, EDI team around ADHD and hormones and stuff, and I talk about it as often as I can because it is. I know there is more and more research being done on it as we speak, but there is very minimal that you can find. But it is a really, really important topic that barely gets any airtime, even on social media, and it is something that I will continue to talk about because I know a lot of women, when they reach perimenopause, they start having bouts of, suicide ideation. The hormones when they drop for just a neurotypical woman, going through perimenopause and menopause is bad enough. But then if you add in, autism or ADHD or both in some of us,
Yeah.
then you add in like a few more layers on top of that, and you don't know your ass from your elbow. You don't know what's going on. Your
It's
brain
hard
is
it's
sort of
hard enough not having the neurodivergence on top of that.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So, and I do think it's a really important topic that needs to be talked about more because there's so many women that I've spoken to or they've seen something, either a podcast episode or even women within my university that have reached out to me and said, like, I'm so appreciate that you said that. and it was normally around hormones,
Mhm,
and women and late diagnosis, and they're like, "I'm so grateful because then it's helped them," and then they've gone and seen their doctor now. Doctors, GPs are not trained in these kind of issues. Even menopause, most GPs are not. That like the menopause training is an add-on that they can choose to do or not. And I know they're general practitioners, so they know little bits of information about as much as they can. But when it comes to ADHD and and autism and perimenopause and menopause, there's just like I said to my GP a couple of years ago, it would be amazing to find like a woman and there's probably some out there. It would be amazing to find a female psychiatrist that covers ADHD and menopause, perimenopause. If there is anyone out there and you are listening, then please reach out because I'd love to interview you because I think it would be fascinating. But my doctor's response was, yeah, good luck with that because they're non existent. And I was like, oh, thanks. So then, you just go home and it's like another kind of, and that's a medical professional that's saying to someone who's experiencing, severe perimenopausal symptoms and
mhm,
the brain fog and the emotional dysregulation, losing your rag, you don't know what day it is, and you just feel dazed and confused all the time, and you don't really know what to do, how to do it, and whatever. And then sitting there in front of a medical professional to be told, yeah, good luck with that. And I'm like,
mhm.
seriously, like, just,
Well, when um I must have been 20, and I went to the GP. They said, "Oh, you're just hypervigilant."
oh, psychosomatic.
Like, just anxiety, but also someone who, constantly planning in advance and all this sort of stuff. I said, "Well," I said, "Yeah." I said, "I'd like to be prepared for things." Anyway, and then obviously, what, like a decade and a half later, autism. So it shows what she knew, right?
Yeah,
Um, but in the news right now, it's you see all these women getting diagnoses later in life, whether it's mid to early 30s, like in my case,
yeah,
um, or late 20s to 30s in my case. Um, I People say to me all the time, working in film and TV, "Oh, I've got people say to me, I've got this business, or we produce X, Y, and Z for these big channels. I'm currently on the waiting list, but I also have two children that have been diagnosed, or I've got one diagnosed and I'm waiting for another one to see uh, what it is that they struggle with."
yeah,
And it's more and more common, and anyone who's listened to anything I've said before will know that I strongly believe this, that I'm not saying that neurotypical people are a dying breed, uh, but I think the way that our brains are evolving over time in the future, the human brain will be more neurodivergent. So it's time to start making these changes in employment, in society now, rather than be left with a huge deficit or a huge owing a ton of money because we didn't plan for this when people like you and me were saying this years ago,
yeah,
or at the in now in present time, which is would be the past. You know what I'm saying, right? Um, I'm astounded with the work that I'm doing that I don't see, particularly in industry, which is like the industry that kind of people take inspiration into their own lives. Like when you watch a film or you watch TV or you listen to somebody, you pick up bits of their personality or you dress like them or whatever. Great. Well, in that case, why aren't we making plans now so that in the future it's going to be a lot easier? And it's no exaggeration that there's people teaching in schools now, and more or less, there's more neurodivergent children in classrooms than neurotypical, or what we would class as neurotypical. And I'm hoping we do change that word at some point to just non-neurodivergent or something a bit more less offensive to people that don't have autism or ADHD.
Yeah.
Because I love all people, so
Yeah.
um, yeah.
But yeah, I think as well, like the heritability of autism and ADHD is 84 to 86%. So, you're kind of if you've got someone in your family that's already been diagnosed, then just take a look around, because that may mean that there's like you all need to get either assessed, or there's that you can kind of see the connections, because I have spoken to a lot of women as well whose children have been diagnosed, and then they've gone on to get a diagnosis or be assessed as well. And I think, again, that's a reoccurring theme for us women. Whereas, I call us the lost girl generation, because we were
Oh,
just unseen, unheard of. Like, I was 43 when I was diagnosed in 2019, and I literally had absolutely no idea that I knew I was different, but I would never be able to say to you what that different was. And it was always like a really derogatory, like, difference. Whereas I used to put myself down a lot. My mum was a narcissistic bully, my brother, again, the same. And then there was little old me just desperately trying to kind of manage a life. And then once I was diagnosed, like, everything started making sense. And the psychiatrist also said to me, "Yes, you've got complex personality issues." And I laughed and I was like, "Yeah, anyone would if you grew up like I did." Although it was not perceived as neglect, because the house was clean, we were fed, and we had clean clothes. It was neglect, emotional, physical. It was just
mm.
not a nice environment. I don't know why I just said that anyway. Gone off on a little tangent there.
Yes,
But I think, like, as women, like you've said about masking, we're getting later diagnosed later in life.
it's harder in females than in men.
Yeah, and I think, like, I had absolutely no idea that I had it until someone I worked with said to me, "You do realise you've got ADHD, Emma, don't you?" And I was like stereotypical little boy in a classroom, laughed in her face completely and utterly, was just like, "No, I haven't got it. I'm not a boy. I'm not in school and I'm not being disruptive." And she's like, "You've got ADHD." And then a few days later, I went into the office and she'd printed off this questionnaire and left it on my desk. And I looked at it, looked at her, laughed, and put it in
Yeah.
the drawer. And then it was a few weeks later, I was in the office on my own and I got it out. And I was like, "Okay, come on, I'm just going to do this to humor her, because, I'm right and she's wrong. Like, I don't." And it was like 98% ADHD. And I
Oh,
was like, uh, um,
yeah, it's hard to accept that. Um, I think people are very brave when they decide to see, okay, why am I struggling with what I'm struggling with, and then when people hear the word diagnosis,
yeah,
it has a negative connotation. Um, Whereas if your brain just works a bit differently, it's not the be all and end all. If anything, I feel a ton better. Um, I mean, look, do people when they see it on paper, autism or something, and or ADHD, it's like, you know what? If those people don't want to employ you or work with you or whatever, or maintain a friendship because of that, or they themselves struggle with you, it's not your problem, it's their problem.
yeah,
Um, is it some of it a lack of education, or they've never had to deal with that before? Absolutely. And when I say it's their problem, I'm not blaming them, but at the same time, people need to be a bit more patient. And I think in a world of social media where, the world is like you're seeing other people's lives in milliseconds almost, depending on how fast you scroll on TikTok and things like that, which I don't use, by the way, because, it's been academically proven to not be good for your brain. Um,
yeah,
Dopamine hits and all that. So, but, you know, I feel that it should be people should be a bit more aware, you know? One thing we do know a lot about in sort of the press and documentaries on broadcasters, in UK homes is and shows that people have seen is we know that neurodivergence is harder to diagnose in women than in guys. We know that.
Yeah.
No, that's been proven because young girls they're able to mask a lot better as well, like performance, makeup,
Yeah.
things like yeah. Um, and I think yeah, I probably struggled with that as a child, looking back, but I don't, you know,
I think that's right.
It's
Yeah.
tough now, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's why these conversations are really important as well. One of the main reasons why I kind of set up the podcast was to kind of start the strength-based approach, but also in the hope of reaching younger girls and enabling them to kind of understand that whether they're diagnosed or not, like there's nothing bad about you. You're just different. And, you need to maybe understand how your symptoms present themselves and then kind of build a life around your strengths and the positives. Because I think that, you know, we do carry a lot of trauma into our adult life as women, but
Mm,
also we need more focus on less focus on negativity and more focus on positivity. And I don't mean toxic positivity, which is something that a couple of people have said, or I've seen stuff on social media recently where they've mentioned, toxic positivity. I mean, we teach or we show young girls how to live a productive life. Even whilst they're waiting to be diagnosed, because I think particularly for girls, the something I read a few weeks ago said that by the age of 6, neurodivergent girls start masking, and by the age of 7, they've had 6 times more negative conditioning and negativity judgments and stuff by the time they're 7. And I think,
mm,
wow, like, particularly in this day and age, like, that blows my mind because I'm like, that something needs to be done about that.
yeah,
We need to try and reach even like teenagers, girls, even boys, because I know for boys when they're children, the hyperactivity is normally kind of external, so they won't be able to sit still. They'll be very boisterous. They'll be disruptive. Whereas I think for girls, we start to overcompensate at such an early age. And I'm not just talking about ADHD. I'm talking about ADHD, autism, even dyslexia, dyscalculia, I don't know what the other ones are called. But I think, kind of trying to reach girls before they get to that 7 or 8 mark and they've already got that amount of trauma, and just, empowering them with understanding what's going on. Because I felt lost as a child. I was always told you need to just concentrate, stop daydreaming and
yeah,
concentrate. Like, if you just tried harder, and soul destroying when you're just trying to do the best you can,
mm,
which, obviously was not. The teachers were trying to be kind and would say to me, like, if you put in some effort, then you are actually capable of amazing things. And I'm like, but I'm not. My brain hasn't processed until the amazing things. My brain is still focused on the if you just tried harder or tried a little bit. I'm still stuck on that, and then I still get stuck on, "Well, why can't I do that then?" Well, it's because I had undiagnosed ADHD. It's not for any other reason than, I learn differently. I am different, but it's a good different, and I just think if we can reach, the as many kind of young not children, like teenagers, and just try and kind of enable themselves to just look at themselves positively rather than Because there's a lot of correlation with ADHD or late diagnosis in women and complex PTSD, and that comes from childhood for us. So as children, we will either not try or we will overcompensate. So we will try and be the perfect student or sorry, excuse me, the perfect child or whatever, and then we overcompensate. But how long can you keep that up? It's exhausting.
I don't
Mm.
know. I mean, um, one thing I'm not a parent, but one thing I am aware of is before any kind of when I was younger, I could hide my neurodivergence because I was a young kid. I didn't know any better. I could just act stupid, right? As far as they were concerned. Well, I didn't have a cell phone until I was 18, you know. And when I travel on public transport, sometimes I see kids, with iPads
Yeah,
and y- m- gaming and sure, okay, babies use these iPads and tablets as a way of watching their favorite shows and things, but you can't tell me that they are because it's usually connected to the internet. You can't tell me they're not exposed to things that make them think
yep,
certain things.
yep.
Yeah, so that's hard. It's hard being a parent and having a child, but in today's world, but it must be harder having a neurodivergent child at at like 7, and even if parents don't let them use the internet or everything is blocked, like they can watch shows on devices and things, but not be exposed to other things. I mean, there's only so much sheltering you can do when they're at school because somebody will always smuggle in a phone, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, it's a different world than when you and I were kids.
and I think as well that, unfortunately, the social media,
Right.
craze and the influencer craze and just, the kind of whole, um just the it's like instant gratification, but also what I'm seeing a reoccurring theme of is young people judging themselves against other people that are on media and stuff and that are maybe thinner or they've got more money or whatever it is, like in comparison. If you're comparing yourself to
Mm.
other people all the time, then you're not really you're always thinking, well, there's something wrong with me. I need to change because, I want to be more like this person or that person, or I don't like my nose, or I don't mind my nose, by the way. It's just an example.
Stuff your nose.
Exactly. So it's just an example. I don't know why it just popped into my head. But I
Mm.
do think for young girls, there's so many mixed messages on social media where you know, that you're portrayed to be like you need to have like the false eyelashes and, the tattooed eyebrows and the lip fillers and stuff. And I just think, where's the natural beauty gone? That's the thing that I worry about the most because you've got younger and younger school age children that are dressing
Like
up,
adults.
yeah, like adults. Yes. And that worries me because I'm just like, then you're kind of
Hmm.
and I know this is a bit of a funny kind of way to see it, but I think then unfortunately, you may invite the wrong type of person to kind of wanna be around you, and
Oh,
I think
yeah, there's that.
it's not only like social media for young children, but I think isn't it one of the countries has just banned TikTok? Is it Spain? I think. I don't ever go on TikTok, so I've no clue what and what
No,
I have done.
I see people all the time flicking through things. I'm like, how is your brain red? It must just be for dopamine hits. But I just don't.
Yeah,
I've never really felt the need to do that. I know that oh, what was it? It was recommended to me that I get Instagram, and I was like, yeah, these things come up, right? Or also on LinkedIn now on your phone, if you're away and you're not on your computer, it's so easy to get caught up in that kind of like doom scrolling.
yeah.
never had that as a kid, and I always say to young people or anyone that, they're not feeling too good, when you're at home or any time, turn your phone off.
Yeah.
Right. And I know it's annoying when people are trying to reach you, but if you send a message just saying, I'm turning my phone off between these times, it helps because we live in such a high demand world. If you're neurodivergent, that's harder, you
Yeah.
know? And if you think back to early humans, uh, dealing with, they may see about 10 people in their whole lifetime if you're part of a tribe, right? And now we see thousands of people's faces
Yeah.
every day
Yeah.
just by scrolling on our phones.
Yeah.
The technology we have in our mobile phone now is more powerful than those communicators in the 60s Star Trek show,
Yeah.
which is crazy. We're literally in the future. What does that tell you? I mean, yeah, it's just I think people just need to wake up, And I mean, one thing that I wish, if I had an ideal world, I would I would not want social media to be what it is right now. I think, so for example, when a movie comes out, all I need to know is if it's a franchise film, there's another one. That's what it's called. That's when it's coming out. That's all I need to know. Because if I'm a fan, I'm already going to go, aren't I?
Yep.
Uh, yeah, information sensory overload, particularly in young children.
Yep.
And again, if you're neurodivergent, that's hard.
Yep.
I can't imagine being a child in today's world. And
No.
I struggled in school, not with my grades, but the social side.
Yeah.
I can't imagine having a phone and a laptop. I mean, we didn't get a computer in the house until I was leaving school. And that was like an old desktop. So I
Yeah.
couldn't tell you. Yeah, it's just different world, isn't it? And
Yeah.
every year things get quicker, and with AI, it's getting quicker and quicker and quicker.
Yeah.
Um, it's just yeah, it's I don't know. I get involved with things that matter, like having this important conversation or showing that people with disabilities or learning difficulties, disabilities, that they are valued, they are people, and that they have something to say, and that it can be heard by people. Um, and that's something that I do touch upon in the film.
Yeah.
Uh, and I purposely don't use AI. I don't use like that kind of like what's the word I'm looking for? Not woke, but when you see an episode that covers disability in a popular TV show, we can all pretty much guess who the broadcasters are in the UK that do things like this. But it it people that I know that have that experience, they say to me, Lizzie, this doesn't represent me in the slightest. This is just so that they can look good and that they've at least acknowledged the topic, the
Yeah.
subject, the circumstance without actually, uh, caring, basically. It looks bad if we don't. Or what have we seen with some of the world's biggest franchises in Hollywood? We know that that does not work, whether you're talking about physical representation or whatever, or putting people behind the scenes to produce things or to direct things, and they just don't have the experience, you know? It's like before you let them take this huge thing, make sure they can do it. And they'll oh, honestly, it's just I just don't understand it at all. Why would you get someone who's only ever done like a low budget indie film, and then they're used to maybe a few million at the most as a budget, and then why would you give them 250? you're expecting to lose money, you know?
Well, one of the things that I think bothers me as much as social media is, I think, just the portrayal. Like, it seems like a lot of it is staged, even with certain, influencers, social media influencers.
Oh, yes,
There's
100.
nothing. There's
Yeah.
nothing. It's all staged, and I know they're acting.
Reality, sorry to interrupt, but reality television is scripted. I hate to break it to you. They call it unscripted television, right? In the industry.
But it
Yeah,
winds me up.
it's not real.
Yeah, exactly. It winds me up, and that's what winds me up the most. Like, there's people that record, stuff and put it out on social media. And yes, I understand that they are acting out like what what they really are like, but do it authentic, like do it in the moment. And I know that's probably can't unless you were a vlogger. But it bugs me because it's like, oh my god, like you're just. Oh, yeah, I just
Yeah, the younger generations, I'm like, just be yourself.
yeah,
I would rather be me
yeah,
than anyone else. The only reason that I've had the opportunities that I've had, and I've had to really fight to be in like an industry that I'm in, to be able to make this film, to be able to be taken seriously, and be welcome guests on a podcast like this, and people excited to have me and things. I've had to earn that only by being myself, not by copying other people.
yeah,
Authenticity is so important, whether you're, you know, a kid, an adult, whatever. If you try and be someone else, you'll always fail. Whereas if you just be true to yourself, and yeah, it'll always work out, because I think people I'd like to think most people can smell when or they get a sense that this person is being false with me. And I don't mean masking, because sometimes we have to do that as neurodivergent people.
yeah,
But I do think that being more open about things, I'd rather work for people that accept my autism than people that think, oh, or they're too tired to put up with me, or they might see it on a piece of paper, but because they had an experience with somebody in school that maybe had autism on that scale of, they struggle with life more than me, or they have educational issues as well, or
yeah,
even more like nonverbal, they might assume things about me because of that one word.
yeah,
But when they see me, they're like, oh, right, that's who you are.
yeah,
So we also need to stop uh, assuming things just because one word is a label. I think that's another thing that we need to be very careful of.
yeah,
Um, but also in like when we diagnose people, a lot of these things, are just words that people have made up. So we just, I think going forwards, we just need to be a bit more sort of careful, I think, with how we label other people, and not exclude people that aren't neurodivergent, for example, or exclude people that aren't disabled. I want to live in a world where we're all included,
yes,
and we all get on, and we can all deal with each other in the workplace and in everyday social world. That would be nice. But the people that struggle with neurodivergent people, they also need to do something about it,
yeah,
and also do the work as well. It's not just up to us.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, I think that is ultimately, like, we can turn up, you can make your film, I can do the podcast, and we can talk about these things. But what we actually do need is then for decision makers, whether you're in a small organization or a big organization, to kind of have training to understand like exactly what we experience, and then to be
Mhm.
able to kind of make reasonable adjustments, or just enable us to work in a way that is suitable to us, which is obviously mostly for me is a non-linear path. I go on like like here, there, and everywhere. I'm very chaotic and very, yeah, just chaotic. But I get the job done in my own way. But I've had experiences in some of the modules where some lecturers have tried to say, yeah, but if you shouldn't do it like that. Why are you doing that like that? And I'm like, because I've got ADHD. And they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, because my brain works differently to yours. So I might get to this. I probably get to the same answer as you, or I can. At the end of the day, the work will be there, but let me get on with it in my
Yeah,
own way
yeah,
because I am not you.
yeah, exactly,
Exactly, right?
exactly. Yeah,
And
and
I hate it when they treat you like a child
yeah,
because you're not following it. I used to have this manager, right? And it was a total, I won't say it, but
yeah, I can imagine. Yeah,
so not only was he a bit of a misogynist, but also um, kind of like I didn't at that time have my diagnosis. Okay. And this was when I was sort of like, not the one in charge. I am now, but I wasn't that.
yay,
And it's like, oh, like there was this one thing that I just could never get my head around with my neurodivergence. It involved a bit of string. Wow, guess what? You can show me 100 times. I can't do that thing because my autism brain says I'm not interested in learning how to do that, even though I am fighting with that autism to do it.
yes,
Yeah, because I know it's important, but for some reason my brain does not allow me to remember or to learn. I honestly, even now, I don't know what exactly it was, but I certainly wasn't lazy because I was tired at the end of it, trying to get trying to learn this thing.
yeah,
But I tell you what, I can do. I might not be able to tie something up with some string, but I can make a film and inspire people and do something a bit more important than tying a bit of string.
yeah.
So, yeah, yeah, there's a lot that needs to change in that way.
And I think, for starters, more conversations like we're having, where we just turn up as ourselves and just talk about this stuff. And this is the main reason why I wanted to do the podcast, was just to be able to empower other women, adults, teenagers, young children, anyone that needs to kind of understand, and kind of, reframe how they see themselves. Because, like you've just said perfectly, you work in a way that is great for you, and there's value in that. Whereas I think, I'm sure you've worked hard to get to where you are today. And we do work hard as women because we have to, unfortunately, because there's still a big stereotypical divide between men and women. And then you add in the neurodivergence and the hormones and stuff, and it's like we almost go to battle some days just to kind of, get a something small done. But because I always used to beat myself up about how I was going to do this today and that today and that today, and then I can't remember who it was. Someone I spoke to said, "But what have you done today?" I was the pain clinic when not long after I was diagnosed with a fibro, and I said, "Well, I've got up, I've had breakfast, I've got dressed, and I've come to meet you guys, as in the pain specialist nurse,
Yeah.
and the pharmacist, because we were talking about medication, which is a story for another day, because that's just a minefield, for chronic pain." And she was like, "Well, you've done more than some others probably would do in a week." And I was like, "Huh." And then I watched this, there was like, a documentary type thing. I can't remember what it was on, and it was around people that live with chronic pain. And there was a young man who was in a wheelchair, and he touched, like, I was crying because I
Mm,
needed to hear what he was saying at the time, because he was saying, even if the only thing that I can do in a day is get up and go downstairs, that's enough. I've still achieved something. And that
mm,
really kind of hit me on a deep level, because I was like, wow, like, yeah. So even if I manage to just get up and come downstairs, and that's all I managed to do, I have achieved something. and that something should be focused on rather than the big list of things that I've not done, if that makes sense. So I kind of try it,
Yeah,
and it's like a little bit of a gratitude to what I have achieved. So, what do I achieve in a day? Some days I can take on the world. Other days I'm exhausted and I can't move off the sofa because I'm just can't think straight or even talk. Whereas other days I don't stop talking. So, but it's
yeah,
a full range of kind of things that happen in a day. And yeah, it's why I love these conversations, because I think these are really kind of, we need to be talking not just about neurodivergence, but also, you know, f- um, physical disabilities like living with chronic pain and chronic fatigue, and then having to, not being as physically mobile as I was before. I think for me, was the darkest time of my life. Like I said, I was suicidal ideation, which is basically suicidal thoughts for 2 years. Every day
mm.
I woke up and I
Sorry you had
wanted,
to go through that.
yeah, every day I wake up and every day I wanted to die. And I don't say this very often because I usually just focus on the ADHD. Um, but I think, you know, back then I had to stop working. I got diagnosed with ADHD, then fibro, and then 2 years later, complex PTSD. Had to stop working because I just couldn't, I physically, mentally, emotionally, I just couldn't. And they call it burnout now, but I would have, like in my mum's generation, and some of her brothers and sisters, they would call it a nervous breakdown. Um,
Mm.
Sorry, hold on. I need to just have a bit of a sip of my drink, but excuse me. But it's just, it's not really talked about. Like, how do you manage your pain? Well, I don't really know. You just kind of, like, when people say, "What, you're in pain 24 hours a day, 7 days a week?" I'm like, "Yeah, really, yeah." And it's almost like you have to have a little what, all the time? And I'm like, "Yes!" And by the time they've asked you the third time, I'm pulling my hair out because I'm like, I'm not gonna say this if it's not true. Like, yes, chronic pain's 24/7. It's just there all the time. And yes, I've got used to a certain level of pain, but then when it flares up, then I'm kind of, I can't do anything in them days. But yeah, even women and pain, I know, there's a big, campaign that one of the painkiller companies do around, women and pain. And I think that again is a really important message. Like, just to kind of, it's not all in your head. Like the amount of GPs that used to say to me when I was younger, this is all just psychosomatic. And I used to think, oh my God. I mean, there is an element of truth in that, because obviously what happens in the brain affects the whole body, but it's not just it's not just in my head. I'm not imagining it all. Like, the pain is real. So, yeah, I've just rambled on at you now, Elizabeth, for the last 5 minutes. So,
Well,
sorry.
well, no, thank you for sharing all of that. I think a lot of people wouldn't have the guts to say they've gone, yeah, that's a real thing. So well done. Um, yeah.
I do think as
Um,
well I was perimenopausal. So I had one of my ovaries removed when I was 40 because I've got polycystic ovaries, and they'd had so many cysts removed off of it that the doctors just decided that he was going to take it all out, like the fallopian tube on one of the ovaries. But no one
right.
told me that having one ovary would obviously decrease significantly the estrogen that my body produces. And it wasn't until maybe 3 years ago when one of my friends and my partner basically said to me, "Please go to the doctors because you've like my partner, he's very autistic. He's not diagnosed, but we can diagnose people, can't we? Because we understand the
Well, there
traits
was
and
a
stuff."
lovely
So
phrase.
yeah,
I was at a festival. It was like, "I'm diagnosed, but we know."
Exactly, exactly. But my partner said, like, it was like I'd had a full personality transplant because I was just really angry all the time.
He'll
I had
notice.
no I had no patience. And then one of my friends sat me down and said, "Emma, please go to the doctors because your symptoms are getting worse and worse and worse." And I went to the doctors and saw a male doctor, and he did blood tests. He said, "No, your hormone levels are fine." 6 months later, I went back and in floods of tears and saw a lady doctor. And I think more and more GPs now are going on symptoms rather than hormone levels because yeah, she put me on HRT, and since then, I mean, it doesn't obviously reduce everything, but it makes life more bearable with the
Yeah.
HRT and,
Mm.
a lot of understanding around what's going on. Um, so yeah.
It's becoming more and more acceptable to talk about. There's not as much of the stigma around women and menopause and premenopause and all this stuff. I think, yeah, there's always that issue, isn't there, that men will see it as like, oh, you got this
Here we go
as a
again, yeah.
barrier.
Yeah.
I hate that. One thing, I'm going off topic here, but one thing I like to people to know whenever they hear from me is I use the phrase invisible barriers all the time when it comes to neurodivergence because ugh, it's, unless you literally have to like make it blunt so that they understand, they won't know, you know? So it's you have to find a way of trying to get that across, whether it's an employer or a friend or someone that wants some kind of relationship, working or friend of a friend or whatever. It's kind of like I need you to understand that my brain works this way. You know, um, and that when I'm low, it's it's low,
Yeah.
but when I'm good, it's good.
Yeah.
Or it might affect me differently, but yeah, and then you want to put that on top what you just discussed as well.
Yeah.
That's not easy. I imagine your partner was very getting the blunt end of all the negativity, and
Yeah.
you know some things may have been said when you weren't in the
Yeah.
right frame. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you think about the three things, so you've got perimenopause, you've got complex PTSD, and then you've got ADHD, emotional dysregulation or emotional hyperarousal. And it's like it was just there was these three things that were going on, and I was just like, I didn't necessarily notice it in myself to start with, but then thankfully, like my partner and I, we've got the kind of relationship where if either of us have been a bit of a dick, we just say it out loud. We don't not horribly, but we'll talk about it. Are you okay? Well, actually, no, I'm not, but I didn't realize I'm not okay or whatever. We've got like the communication between the two of us is just it's amazing. And I just think because of that, him saying it to me made me feel like he wasn't like digging me out for it. He wasn't judging me. He was just saying, are you okay? Because this, and this seems to be happening more and more. And it was like, I'm quite a diplomatic person. And, I've always had a lot of patience for other people. And I'd be the first one in the line to help anyone if they needed
Yeah.
it. And people always know that if they needed anything, I would do it for them. And yes, that's been a detriment to me over the years, but it's one of the sides of me that I think is a good side. It's a strength, but I think because that was almost gone and overshadowed with me just feeling angry and vengeful all the time, it became more and more prominent that there was
Mm.
obviously something else going on. It wasn't just ADHD symptoms, complex
Mm.
PTSD. There was, and then it was about 3 years ago, I kind of I started doing some research, and there was not a lot. There was a lot of information, but not a lot of actual either medical or academic research 3 years ago, and there's
Mm.
probably lots more now. But yeah, so that's why I think it's really important as well to not just talk about neurodivergence, but talk about other things like fibro causes brain fog. You know, you just cognitively you can't do it. Just like I call it dazed and confused.
Yeah.
You know, when we've got little sayings like my partner knows the fatigue is bad when is your head heavy? I'm like, yeah, and that means that the fatigue is that bad. I literally cannot even lift up my own head. And then
Mm.
when's the pain bad? And I know this is not possible. So if any listeners are want to pull me up on this, then I know it's not possible. But when the pain flares and it's really bad, my partner says, and I say, the ends of my hair hurt. That's how bad it is. And it's not just one or two places. It's like the whole body can kind of just
And
hurt.
only you are gonna be aware of what that feels like.
Exactly. So yeah, we have a few little sayings that, you know, is a little bit of humor in them dark things when they're really bad. But yeah,
Mm.
so the ends of my hair when the pain's really bad, the ends of my hair hurt. And when the fatigue is really bad, I can't lift up but my it's literally like trying to move through treacle. So yeah, anyway.
Yeah. One thing I find is, people who are kind, and I get that impression with you, is you mentioned people walking all over you and things. Well, I think when you're neurodivergent, I feel that it's particularly if you're a kind neurodivergent person, people do take advantage of you, or friends and family might think that you're being a bit naive because people are taking advantage of you or using you, and you don't and sometimes you don't even see it because in your mind you're like, I'd expect the same kindness back. But let's be honest, we don't live in that world where everyone has
No.
that kind of reciprocation
Yeah.
of kindness.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's something that leads to confusion and anger and just, it's like, well, and then for the neurodivergent brain, it's like, well, I'm like that, so why can't other people be like that?
Yeah.
You know, I get it.
Yeah. I think
It's
as well,
hard.
you can also tie that into being undiagnosed as well, or not being
Well,
diagnosed as until you're later on in life as women, because we kind of almost condition ourselves to kind of try and make ourselves useful to other people, and unfortunately, that can then obviously lead to people taking advantage. And I saw that in my mum and my brother, and it wasn't until I just cut contact and just decided I'm putting myself first. I'm not getting
mhm,
into that toxic kind of environments when it's just not good for me. I'm putting, and whether that's perceived as selfish or not. And people have said, yeah, but it's family, and I'm like, I don't care if I'm related to you or not. I got to about 45, 46, and I thought I'm not putting up with it anymore. I don't care whether you judge me or not for cutting out toxic people. I could not give a monkey's,
yeah,
because I deserve to be treated with kindness and with respect and trust. And that's it. And if you don't do that, then you're gone. Goodbye. And I,
yeah. It's a shame because at the end of the day, if you think about it, we're all the same species. So at the end of the day, we're all just one big family, but we are all related
yeah,
at the end of the day.
yeah.
So, oh, that's hard,
I've
you
got
know?
non-biological family that I call it non-biological. So they're family that, that I'm not biologically related to them, but they are family because I've known them for like ever. So yeah, I just choose to surround myself with the people that are just the right way for me, kind, compassionate.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I find that, and I'm close with some people who are family and some people who are family and not as close, I think, yeah, you know, that's never easy, is it? You know?
no, but it's quite an empowering thing though. And even if
Yeah.
we just talk about being a neurodivergent woman, it's very empowering to say out loud that I'm not going to accept the unacceptable. I'm not going to accept behavior
Mm.
that is gonna be detrimental to me. So,
Yeah.
if the listeners are listening and you've got to this point, then, you just need to take charge or take the initiative. I try and be careful with wording because I don't want it to be like I'm gonna take control, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, but that can be really toxic," and I'm like, "Oh, I don't know why I put a funny voice on them," but
Yeah.
but it's like, so, if you try to take the initiative of your life and sit and really think about what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, um, and
Yeah. One thing that I find is, people trying to find more information about things. It's almost like, there's a fine line between saying too much and too little, or getting the wrong thing across, and nobody wants to offend anybody.
yeah,
So we end up it just comes across as stale and bleached almost, and there's no it's just a product at the end of the day with no meaning.
oh, yeah,
And I feel a lot of the struggle that you've just mentioned, no wonder people don't bloody know. It's because when people do talk about it, it's so PC, and um, uh, not that people don't want to talk about it in public, or things like that. It's just, oh, so and so mentioned that on camera, but we can't use that, you know. And then you wonder why people treat people with neurodivergence like children or mad people.
yep,
And it wasn't that long ago that people were sent to Bedlam. So, for just just because we don't, we have medical science now, and we understand how things work, and that things are people are different.
yeah.
Mm,
But it's
definitely.
okay to be different. You don't
Yeah.
have to kind of don't it's a good different. Don't try not to fall into the norm. I don't like the word normal, like, what is
Oh, I don't use
normal?
it.
I'm
Normal
normal
is
to
not in
me.
my vocabulary.
Exactly.
I'm
So,
aware of it, but I don't use it.
yeah, yeah, no, I can't. I just can't. It drives me insane. But
Oh,
it's like, yeah, I do know that obviously by having these conversations, we are opening up. We're moving past just awareness and moving into understanding. And yeah, I just love to see more authenticity because I think it's a die. Unfortunately, I do say things. I don't really. Um, Let me just say, one of my strongest strengths is honesty, and I'm quite blunt sometimes. So I have been asked in the past to maybe kind of not be as blunt because it's just straight to the point. But then I'm like,
I struggle with bluntness
do
a lot.
you?
Yeah. Um, I don't know what it is. I think it's not impatience for me. It's just someone asked me a question. Does my bum look big in this? Or do you want me to, and it's a really good friend of mine. Do you want me to lie? Do you want me to say, yeah, make a fool of you in public? Or do you just want me to say, you know what? Just put something else on,
Yeah,
you know? I'd rather just be honest and say, well, maybe that's not the question you're asking me, but I wouldn't wear it. That's something I'm like that. I will just say, look, that's not good. I'm not going to be the kind of friend that goes, oh yes, you're good.
no, I don't do that either.
No, no, no.
No.
People do that, and it's just false. It's
There
just not real.
there's an art to that though, isn't there? It's like try to be honest without upsetting
Oh,
them, and it's like, so I normally would ask, "How honest do you want me to be?" And
exactly. And the problem with that is with autism, ADHD, that bluntness can come across as this person thinks they're right all the time.
yeah,
You know, um, I hate when people think that of anyone. Because if I'm wrong, I will admit I am wrong.
me too.
And hell, I might even learn something that I didn't know, which is always always good.
Yeah,
But yeah, and like in the industry that I'm in, like film, TV, and all that, I'm like, yeah, you could sort of cast someone that doesn't really represent what that character is, but I wouldn't do it if I were you. It's like, I mean, the only reason to do that in today's society is to make a point that only a small percentage of people would care about, and things like that. I mean, You know, I'd like to see more neurodivergent people play neurodivergent characters. I'd like to see more autistic uh, people play autistic characters, and neurotypical people not getting Oscars for playing a neurotypical person because I don't know. You know, like I wouldn't hire a white person to play Blade. Let's just like, or vice versa. Do you know what I mean? Or whatever, or Bond, or anything like that. I'd always keep it to what the character was by the original author. And unfortunately, we've seen that recently with the new Harry Potter trailer, haven't we?
I've not
So
seen
it's
it.
yeah, it's just like, you know, just celebrate everybody,
Yeah,
you know, and not swap people about and things, and maybe then we'd be a bit more authentic in our storytelling and
yeah.
how people see people in the media and things, you know.
And encourage people to be like, give them space and comfort to be themselves. Like, that's the thing I think that we could probably take away from today is just giving people the safety to kind of just be authentic and themselves and not have to kind of mask or
Oh no,
pretend pretend
I
that
mean,
they're something that they're not. Like, I'm messy, I'm chaotic, I'm loud sometimes, I'm just lastminute.com, I'm this, I'm that. I can name all of these things that I am, but also I'm very honest, I'm hardworking,
yeah.
I've got compassion, I'm kind, I'm funny. I don't know if I said funny, but I'm very animated. I'm just me. And I think the positives should be kind of celebrated and highlighted more than,
Mhm.
oh yes, I struggle with time blindness and I struggle with executive dysfunction. And I'm sorry, but I I say to my partner regularly, like, even if I find that monotone voices, if I'm
Mhm.
listening to something, my brain automatically switches off because I'm like, "Oh my god, I have to turn."
What? Yeah.
Yeah, I have to turn them up and do it like 1.5 speed or 2 because you're just like, but you're talking in a monotone voice, and it's like you for brains that are really active and for brains that are really creative, you need kind of stimulation. You need to be able to just kind of
Oh yeah.
say, you can't like sit there and just be, I'm not, it makes me want to go to sleep. I'm
It's
just,
like I know some people, they might have a disability, which means they're monotone, right? But if like this is somebody that's clearly got an education, or you know, they're just not trying, right? It's like they're trying to convey information to you, and they don't believe what they're saying, or they're not enthusiastic about it. And if someone isn't, if I can tell someone's not enthusiastic by being monotone or just boring,
yeah,
you know not to. In some ways, my autistic brain tells me, don't take this person seriously because they don't believe their own BS. You know,
yeah,
um, that's bluntness for you, but
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
I'd rather yeah, you're boring me. You know, you know, I will tell someone if I feel that they don't believe what they're trying to sell me or whatever. It's like, try again.
yeah, yeah. I
Go
mean,
back and go knock on the door and come back in and then try again,
yeah. I
and
mean,
then start again.
yeah. I've had people reach out to me and have said, I mean, I create content, but I'm a technophobic person. It looks like a 5-year-old has done it because I'm one person doing podcasting and content creating, and I'm not the best person at it. I have not got a clue really. Well, I have more of a clue than I had before,
I
but
mean,
I'm
from what
just
you told me and to where we are today, and I'd say you've won a few battles, quite a few actually. You
yeah.
should be bloody proud of yourself.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. But I do have people that reach out to me and ask me questions, and they're like, "Oh, can you just listen? Or what do you think of this?" And I'm like, "Oh, how honest do you want me to be?" Like, and I'm like, if like, I know it's impossible to please everybody, but so I think specifically more so for ADHD, the more kind of maybe creative and colourful and interactive something is, the
Oh,
more likely is that you're gonna catch the attention, and stuff. But yeah, I know, but then I just say, "I'm sorry, but I was just bored after the first 5 seconds," and they're like, "Oh, okay." And
That's me with the British film and TV industry, unfortunately. It's like, I really don't care about period dramas and witty dialogue. It's like, like, give me a decent Dracula movie or something, like a genre film that's gonna interest me, that's got a bit of like
yeah,
I mean, if I went into a classroom, right? This is how unbelievably dumb the UK film and TV industry is, right? If I went into a classroom. Do you guys want to see another manor house and some posh characters and whatnot, or should we go and watch this movie, which is like, you know, um, it's going to be a bit more interesting because it's like, it's got fantastical elements and and y- the playground you can play in that genre and do all sorts. I think that's way more interesting and fun. I think they'd all want to go see a Dracula movie, if you want my honest opinion. um that's just me. you
yeah,
know um yeah, I think, yeah, the world's bit of a mess right now, unfortunately, but people like you and me are doing things that help other people, and the more people like you and me, then we will get there.
of course.
It's gonna take a while, but it will get there quicker the more of us actually do the work. So,
Yeah.
you should be really proud of yourself for starting this podcast and
Thank you.
having the conversations with everybody that you've been having, and,
Thank you.
you know and also, I get the impression you've probably had quite a few people, lined up as well, so I'm sure that'll all work out.
Yeah, it was a little bit overwhelming to start with because like I said, I had the podcast that I did with my friend, and it was called a different podcast, and it was just me and her sitting and talking, and it was great. I loved it, but then I decided I wanted to focus more on ADHD, um, and just reframing neurodivergence
Mm.
and primarily ADHD. But anything and everyone is welcome. So I rebranded it, and then um, I didn't decide, but my friend was like, "This is you, this is what you're meant to do." So she's taken more of a back seat, and we were going to be just meeting once a month, but her life's obviously gone into a different, well, obviously, you don't know, gone in down a different direction. So it's been hard for us to find the time to do it together. So yeah, it's just me, little old me, just doing this,
So,
sitting here. And then all of a sudden, I went from like maybe one guest a week to, I don't know, the algorithm must have been playing whatever it was on that specific day when
um,
I put a post up. Just the one that you saw, I'm looking for guests for the ADHD Reframe project. Let me know if you're interested. And literally, I think it was I stopped counting at 112. So I'm up to, I think you're 19. So there's quite a few to go. Yeah.
wish I
Yeah.
was 19 again.
But so do I. So do I. But then it was the 90s and it was the rave scene, and I was, mental, and I loved going out raving. So
Look, I'm just conscious of time. I'm
yes.
happy to continue for a lot longer. I say, oh, sorry, yeah, 90 minutes. For me, I mean, it's like a whole movie. So,
Do you know what's happening as well? Is these episodes are getting longer and longer because it's like once these conversations are opened up, it's like we've obviously all got a lot to say. So
I'm happy to come back. This is great. I'm enjoying this.
yeah, I'd love that. And yeah, so yeah. I mean, I'm happy to have anyone back, but yeah, it'd be a pleasure to have you back as well.
Oh,
I love these
thanks.
conversations because they're just
I will know more, obviously, about uh, what's going on with the documentary and things a bit closer to the end of filming. There is a press release coming out. I think now that Easter's out of the way, it'll be like not long,
yeah.
a few days, maybe a week or so. But there'll be a few names in there, probably a few organizational names that these people will be featuring to talk about blah blah blah, why it's so important, and
Well, let me know when that happens because I don't necessarily watch the news or the press or anything. My partner does that and tells me the bits I need to know. and the rest of it, I just don't. I
Oh,
can't.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's not
so
a
let me
problem.
know, and I'll put a little post up about it and stuff
Yeah.
on.
One thing I've noticed is I know I keep saying about broadcasters and films and big some of the bigger ones, it's like they're happy to talk about it, but to a degree, whereas they don't really approach the ones that can really make the difference. I think with me, a lot of it is the way in which I've approached them is very human and not trying to say something that they would disagree with or be that kind of person that would take what they say and twist it to fit my own agenda. I think the point of the Whether You Want Us film is very much this is exactly what I'm trying to do. This is exactly the questions I will be asking you, and you will approve your participation before it goes out after it's all been editing. The editing has been done in post production. Um, Very open and honest, which is really rare
Yeah,
today when people collaborate on a sensitive topic like disability and neurodivergence and things like that. Um, yeah, hundred
yeah,
percent. I mean, one thing I will say about this project, there are people who uh, household names that either they haven't got a diagnosis, but we know, or I've actually had conversations with people. I won't give their names, but um, I've literally been told in the industry in the British film and TV industry that actually, Lizzie, I've had to hide my neurodivergence, and I still do. But I can talk to you about it, but I'm not going to go on camera and talk about it in your film if that's okay. So obviously, that's up to them. I think that's a mistake personally, but they're afraid they won't work again, or um, someone who I know, if I said their name, you'd know them. Um, they were in a very important meeting and they're like, well, we're a lot more interested in now, now that they've disclosed this information about themselves, which I think is just bonkers,
yeah.
behavior. But, those are the kind of people who making those key decisions. Unfortunately, that's a lot of them are like that and false, you know.
No,
Um,
yeah, I think one of the things I've noticed, not just on YouTube, but because it was suggested to me to reach out to people that have been doing bigger podcasts and for longer, but obviously try and focus on, people that do talk about ADHD or people that have ADHD. And so
mm,
I kind of, when I started this project, I've only got a website, only podcast, and I've got social media platforms, but it was suggested like reach out to them and try and do like a episode swap where you interview them for your podcast, they interview you for their podcast.
but yeah, yeah.
It's like that was some of the suggestions that were given to me, but it literally I've spent hours sending emails, commenting on posts, and funnily enough, the only person on YouTube or the only kind of ADHD related person was, I don't know if you've ever heard of him, Dr. Russell Barkley. He's retired now. He's a prominent psychiatrist that has dedicated his whole working life to ADHD primarily.
Mm.
And he responded literally within minutes. And he was just like, I'm retired now. I'm sorry, but I don't do that sort of thing anymore. But it was just the fact that he just has even
He
spent that.
acknowledged you.
Yeah,
Yeah, and he understood what you were trying to do, and was uh, probably
yeah,
grateful that you're doing the work.
yeah, exactly. And so it was like, but just for him, even though it was a no, the response from him just like there's been no response to emails, no response to posts, no response to anything. And it's like, trying to break through I mean, it's happening anyway. I don't know how or why it's happening, but it's happening anyway. Like this
Go with the
podcast.
flow.
Yeah,
And you
it's
just attract more of it. It's
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And more so since I've relaxed and just been myself. Because I did notice an element of like masking when I first started, but now I don't really give a monkey's. I'm
I
just
think
me.
no. I mean, I think a conversation on your platform, it's called the ADHD Refrain Project. So people, I would imagine the vast majority of people have some experience with ADHD or neurodivergence.
Yes.
Maybe they've got a child, or maybe they have it themselves, or something similar.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of guests who may be reluctant to make an appearance, in the same way that some people, I can't give names, but are reluctant to talk about their own experiences on camera, yeah, people that really could make a difference. Is I think some of it stems from a fear of oversharing
Yeah.
or saying something that maybe, do you know what I mean? Like whatever. I think a lot of people probably just, unfortunately, we do live in a time where if you do say the wrong thing on camera, um, memes and all sorts. So it's just, you know,
Yeah.
um, yeah, or they say something that they would rather remain private. It's not a big a deal, but for them, it is a bigger deal.
Yeah.
It's yeah. I think with ADHD, you're going to get that because I know, obviously, oversharing is common.
And that's whenever I have guests, if I will always say to them, like, if there's like, because I sometimes I need to go away and process conversations or things that have happened, say the day before, and I always say to them, like, if there's anything that you think that you want me to take out before I publish it, let me know, and I'll just edit it out. It's as simple as
Mm.
that. But I just want to try and kind of make guests feel as comfortable as possible, and just safe and just yeah. But I mean, all of them people that I reached out to try and get a little bit of like, because my partner's a he's obsessed with films and TV, completely obsessed. It's not really my interest, but it's his, so I try and take a little bit of an interest in it. I say try, but yeah, he's obsessed. Literally loves anything film wise and stuff. And he's
We get
subscribed.
on then.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, yes, and he's autistic as well. So yeah, you would get on very well with him because he just
Yeah,
loves
I tell you what,
films.
autistic people, regardless of how autistic they are, I hate saying that, but you know what I mean, how severe it is, how it affects them. I do communicate, and I feel like I'm on the same wavelength more than neurotypical, because with neurotypical,
Yeah,
particularly if you meet them for the first time, I am masking
yeah,
when I'm with them, and that obviously, if I'm masking, I'm not giving them my full attention,
yeah,
because at the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm masking, right? I'm trying to make sure that I'm not fitting in. But you know what I'm saying,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So,
yeah.
whereas if I'm talking to someone like your partner who loves movies, and we're having a casual conversation and
Yeah.
friendly conversation, it would be a genuine conversation about passionate for film,
Yeah.
and what we enjoy, what we don't like,
Oh,
similarities
oh,
and things. That would be a good conversation.
honestly, I would love to have him on the podcast, but he just doesn't even like video calls. He just doesn't like, and he'd make a great YouTuber because some of the stuff he says, and I'm just like, and then I ask him because I'm like, what does that mean? And he's like, oh, and that yeah, it's just not something that I've ever really given a lot of thought to. But he literally is
Mm.
obsessed with it, and he knows I'm obsessed with ADHD and reframing ADHD. So yeah, we try and kind of give that space to each other, if that makes sense, because we know we've got
Absolutely.
novel interests in very different things. But yeah, he's so it was his suggestion, like maybe reach out on YouTube to some of the bigger podcasters that have been podcasting like for a long time and stuff. And I was like, yeah, actually, that's quite a good idea. It didn't work. One person emailed me back, Dr. Russell Barkley, bless his heart. Um, but yeah, but then the podcast all of a sudden has started doing what I wanted it to do, but just much quicker. I kind of had it in my mind that, it might start building some traction by the end of this year, but we're in April now and it's already kind of, yeah, the algorithm somewhere in LinkedIn or whatever it is just, it's created this. And so I ask a lot of I've been asking the guests, like, what attracted you? It's the reframing, the positive kind of strength base. And "Oh, okay, so that's pretty much what I wanted it to do. I almost wanted to build a tribe of, people that we can just support each other to be a little bit more positive and talk about our strengths and stuff."
Yeah. Also, on like a podcast that's been going ages and whatever, I think there's a danger that eventually they do go a bit false and a bit, like you and I have had a very in-depth human conversation that is very real conversation.
Yeah,
We've both shared things that, quite personal, but we're okay sharing them.
yeah,
Maybe not. Maybe the interview on another podcast might not be as genuine or as sharing as much. So I think there's probably more value in this than some of the podcasts that you approached initially.
yeah,
And what does that say about quality? It means that just because a lot of money's been put into a production does not mean it's the best.
yeah,
So these people with a maybe there's some people out there, they've got more followers than you or whatever, they've got bigger people on their podcast than me. Great, cool, but is it a genuine conversation? Other than, oh yeah, I go to the gym and blah, 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 I could tell you my fasting routine today, but your audience do not want to know that. They want to know, I guess by having me on, like, well, okay, who am I? What am I doing to help in terms of neurodivergence, ADHD, and
yeah.
things like that? Well, the documentary film is something that it's not something that would have got commissioned the traditional route in this country, and it's not something that would happen for years on end if someone like me came across and made it because they were in a position where they could just do it and get it seen and have it taken seriously. Um, yeah, I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but
But you
you
should.
know,
You should. You should be proud of
yeah,
yourself for the
probably,
work that
probably
you're
right
doing.
there.
You should
I'm
be
too
proud of
modest.
yourself. Yeah, you should. And I know we find that difficult, but you should. Like, someone pays me a compliment, and I've had to learn to just smile and say thank you. But internally, I'm cringing because I'm like,
Oh,
oh no. So,
oh, they-
you should be proud of yourself.
yeah,
Honestly, you should. You should. I
no,
think when we achieve great things,
mm,
we should be encouraged to be more proud of ourselves because you're making a significant difference, and that's going to go out to millions of people.
yeah,
Millions,
yeah.
not
It's
just like my little podcast it's got a bit of a following like what and I'm not suggesting that there's you know uh, whatever, but both of these conversations and both of these things that we're working on are really important. And I think that is what, I've had people reach out to me and want to be a guest, but all they want to do basically is promote their,
themselves.
yeah, promote and sell their businesses, or they want to get more clients. And I have to say, it's more lived experience storytelling. But if you want to talk about the work that you do, then we can. But I prefer to talk about your lived experiences. And even if that's that you're supporting someone with ADHD or you're supporting a neurodivergent person, even if that's that, I don't. And then there'll be a space at the end where they can talk about the business, and then I post the website in
Oh,
the
yeah. Like most podcasts, it usually ends with, "Oh, where can I find you?" "Oh, you
yeah,
can find me blah, blah, blah."
exactly, exactly. But yeah, so it's been a bit of a trial and error for me. But I do think, when you meet people that are doing, like,
Mm.
having the conversations that we've had together today, but also we're all doing that. I call us activists. I like a bit of an activist campaign. I'm all for, you know, chaining myself to the railings until I'm
That
in a
definitely
lot of
comes
pain and I can't move.
with the screen, don't worry.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm all for that. I'm all for that. I think, more power to you for doing it, but doing it so it's beneficial to people like you and I. And then it's growing understanding, not just awareness, but understanding from people's perspective. So yeah, I think that's
I think just seeing how small an impact certain things are. That, they say like we're doing the most ever in the world and things like that. And then when you actually see who's attending, you see you're there physically. It's like, oh, I thought it would be a bit bigger than that. But it's great that they're doing it. But I guess someone like me comes along and they've got fingers in pies and productions. They can just, I'm making a film about it. Why don't you have a chat with me? you know, it is quite nice to do that. To be able to say that's a real thing. And as I say, quite really fortunate actually to have sort of like the ones who are the biggest in the world that have already started to have people of certain with certain disabilities or neurodivergence, to actually have people playing those real people, and but they're still playing a character. They're not playing themselves, but the person who has been cast also has the same uh, neurological thing as the character.
Yeah.
Like that's just a whole different level of realism
Yep.
at the same time.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. And
Yeah.
it makes sense to have neurotypical people play neurotypical people. It makes sense to have neurodivergent people play neurodivergent
Yeah.
characters. I think.
My mum
I think
always used to say to me that I'd make a good actress because I'm a drama queen. I don't think she meant it in a good way. I think she meant it in a derogatory way. But
the insult. That's never a good thing. You drama
exactly,
queen. Yeah,
exactly.
I get that all the
Yeah.
time. Or what was it? What was it? People call me drama queen. You're so vain. That's another one. I used to be. I used to be very vain.
Yeah. Yeah. I've also had guests that are like, is it a paid guest thing? And I'm like, what? No, I'm not going to pay you. Like, I've designed and produced and record and edit as one person. So no, there's no money in it. I'm just like, no, no. And
Yeah,
it's like,
I
so
hate that about
is
people.
that a thing then? I'm assuming that must be quite a big thing because there was more than one person that asked me. And I'm
Yeah,
like, no, this is just about, reframing ADHD, but also, like personal storytelling, or, or even if you work in the field or whatever. And it's like, no, I don't, I actually am not
yeah.
employed yet. So no, I can't pay you. I just would, and it's like, it's just like, so maybe that's one of the things that the bigger people do. Maybe they offer um, uh,
It's
payments.
most of I'd say a few of them do. I think when we're doing something on this topic, I think people should just volunteer their time because it's a good cause.
Yeah,
ADHD Reframe Project.
yeah,
I mean, like, it's for a good reason, I mean, it's great to have this conversation. It's a good thing to do on a Monday. I
Blue
hate
Holiday
Mondays,
Monday, yeah,
but I've enjoyed this.
yeah, yeah,
It doesn't cost anything to turn your computer on and have a chat.
no,
And you know what? If people are expecting to get paid for doing the work, for doing the real work that you really don't get paid for, trust me, I know. Um, it's like, or having to make those decisions, or in any job, you do things that you don't get paid for because without that extra push forward, nothing gets done.
yeah,
And I think if we left it to people like that expected to get paid for sitting on their asses, drinking coffee, having a chat, I'm sorry, no. If we leave the world to those people, we're doomed.
yep,
Uh, um, but I mean, a lot of the people I'm interviewing, they know it's a humanitarian documentary, and the budget only goes so far with travel and going all over the place and to events. I've already been invited just by going to this one thing. It wasn't even on the schedule. I've already been invited to give a talk,
there
presentation.
you go, you're getting the word out, so it's
Exactly right. So
you're opening up other opportunities for you to just go and talk more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for that.
I'm not afraid to say, "Look, in the industry, these are the" 'cause it'd be a cinema venue and whatnot. I will be saying that, "These are the problems you will encounter. Hands up, do people still treat you like a child?
Yeah,
And but you're an adult, and you can more than do what's expected and comprehend what's expected of you, but yet they still treat you like a child." I hate that. So, if the people that maybe have turned down an appearance on here, they're the wrong people, and you're better off without those people,
yeah.
you know?
Exactly, and that's the thing. And just by kind of talking that through with my partner, it made me realise that actually, because I want to be inclusive of everyone,
Yeah.
but I also want to kind of keep the message in as it is. So reframing, obviously, not just it's ADHD, but it is, just reframing like neurodivergence as a whole. And I wanted to keep it as inclusive as possible. But then, there's sometimes there's topics, there's this, there's that that don't really fit into this type of podcast. So yeah, it is a bit of
Mm.
a juggling act, sometimes, but, yeah, it seems to be doing what I want it to do anyway.
Oh, yeah, yeah, and for those listening, right, I mean, um, this is a prime example of, I guess I've got a bit of a platform, so have you, you know? Um, I've been featured in Deadline, which is like you've got they're all owned by the same company, by the way, Deadline, Hollywood Reporter, and, Variety. They're the top 3 in the world. Deadline for breaking news. If people type my name in, into Google, Elizabeth Victoria Evans, it's usually, I think, the article from April in
Deadline was the
Deadline.
one that I found, yeah. I
Right, yeah,
did you
okay, cool.
yesterday.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because I
yeah,
do a little bit of research into the guests before I interview them, or before I
well,
talk to them.
there's
So, yeah,
the
good luck.
breaking
Yeah,
news
Deadline was the first one that came up on Google.
story.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? So if you've got someone like that talking to you, that bumps you up too. So, that's awesome, and I will what's the term? Not share, um,
Promote.
uh,
No, not
repo
promote. No, no, I don't know if I want like the word promote, but share. Yeah, share. Just all I ask for the guest is just share, like in your network, who
of
share to
course,
people that can benefit from these types of conversations. So yeah, I mean, if there's
yes,
anyone listening that Elizabeth
yeah,
does know
yeah,
that could maybe help me out, then please, all
I will.
means, I'm never going to say no to any support. But I also like the fact that what I do is authentic, it's raw, it's honest. The editing is never perfect. The video angles are never perfect. There's none of that kind of, and I know in the film industry and the TV industry, that is kind of a reoccurring thing. But for me, it's just not because I'm just one person. And so, yeah, it's all,
Oh, the fact that you're here today is amazing because 'cause you're doing more than most people. So
yeah.
you can proud of yourself.
Thank you. And I'm
Yeah?
studying and I'm trying to manage my health and I'm trying to find a job and this
Y
and that. And it's just, yeah. So, but this is what I like. If I say to my partner regularly and to my friends, if I could get paid to talk about ADHD every day, I'd be happy because that's just where, I shine, I think. Um, and
Mhm.
friends that I've made through my university say, that I always know the right thing to say at the right time. And how do I do it? And I'm like, I don't know. How do I reach the most vulnerable people in the country, in the world, the minority groups? How do I, the underrepresented, the underprivileged? I don't know. How do I explain, neurodivergence in a language that everyone can understand, neurotypical or neurodivergent? How do I do that? I don't know. It's just I do. It's just something that I can do. It's not something that I've kind of forced myself to do. It's just something that actually comes quite natural to me. So if I could just get
Yeah.
paid to do that, I'd be very happy.
There's not a lot of people even bothered to start something up like your platform, so that's really, really, sorry, my mouse just try to run away then. Um, uh, I mean, so many people in this country are false, and I was born in this country, so I know, and yeah, I don't know. I think, yeah, um, anyone that is funny about trying to spread anything that is designed to help people, and then they want money for it just by appearing and having coffee with you on internet coffee, that a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I've dealt with those people, and they're the kind of people that will treat you as a child because you've got autism or ADHD.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and we just have to sort of let them get on with what they're going to do, but they're not the kind of people that are going to help other people on the level that we are.
Yeah.
Because I mean, how many people are going to hear this, and then maybe they'll hear what I do is, if I discover someone brand new, right? Um, well, what normally happens is you end up clicking on oh, I enjoyed that. What other episodes have you got?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, well, you know how it works.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
share,
Yeah.
"Oh, I listened to this. Here you go. This is where I found it," and then they follow you and
Yeah.
everything. So, I mean, I'm not a very big social media person, and we got, I think it was LinkedIn that
Yeah.
I was like, "Ah, we should probably have a chat,"
Yeah.
but I didn't. When I said we should, I think my message was pretty just one sentence, like, "Oh, if you, I'm free if you want." Yeah. I wasn't like, I
Can I,
wasn't like,
yeah.
"Oh, are you gonna pay me?" It's like, for the course that we're doing, it's like, I'll talk with you. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. I
You know.
mean, I can already tell when guests are just messaging me. I can already tell because I don't know. I've got the ability, very intuitive, and I can just tell if someone is like what the agenda is.
Right.
So yeah, so it's not that I don't want um people to rock up and promote their business and stuff. That's just not the narrative that necessarily that I want to follow, but it's just a lived experience storytelling. But and the main reason I choose that is because
Mm,
it's rare. Even in podcasting it's rare because people are, a lot of people are a bit funny. Like we've talked about a full range of things today. You've talked
mm.
about your film, you've talked about all the stuff that you're doing, all the amazing work.
I
You've
hope I,
talked
I
about.
hope I, with the autism, I hope I haven't just talked about me and my
No,
film.
no, you haven't, honestly, I
Yeah.
promise. I'd tell you, because I know you enough by now, I'd say to you, "All right, Elizabeth, now come on." No, oh, no, trust me. What I was then gonna say is you've talked about that, we've talked about the podcast, you've talked about your autism, I've talked about ADHD and fibro and this and that, and then we've kind of gone on a bit of a journey of kind of just connecting and relating to each
Yeah.
other, but then connecting that to the people that are gonna be listening or watching. So, no,
There's
you
more value,
haven't.
yeah, for listeners. I think there's more value. I know I've said this, but there's more value in this episode podcast, what we're doing now, than say something like, I don't want to give any names or diss anyone, but maybe one of them, maybe like, I don't know, one where they cover more celebrity news or something, and a lot of it is just kind of just laughing and not really like, this will help people, right? I'm sure you and I have said things this morning that will help someone, or whatever, and that's amazing. And that's probably why you do this, and why the documentary is, it's coming from that. If that is your starting point,
Yeah,
um, what you then give someone as a final product, or a podcast episode, a film, there's going to be so much value in that, because it comes from a place of, I really want you to understand this, or it's not just you. This will help you. This will help you understand other people that don't think like you. If you're an employer, if you are struggling with your own neurodivergence,
yeah,
it's so important we have things that let people know that it's okay.
yeah.
And that's way more important than a lot of the crap you see on people listen to these days.
Yeah.
I mean, I like listening to rubbish, but it's background noise.
Yeah.
This is stuff that if you're interested in an ADHD podcast, then you're going to be. I would hope you're listening.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Just welcome to the chaos and the messiness and the authentically, unapologetically ourselves. That's what I like to kind of, yeah. And I don't know how I really do it. I don't know how. But every guest that I have is like, oh my God, you made me feel seen. And I was so comfortable. It didn't feel like we were even being recorded. It just felt like we were having a conversation. And I was like, but that is pretty much what I want to do. So
Yeah,
yeah,
people want to listen to people who are people, not people that put on a persona. And um, actually, I had this conversation. I saw there was a rise in YouTube channels that were more just kind of like themselves, a camera, someone sat in front of it. The return of the old school, as opposed to like AI writing half the script and
yeah,
visuals that a computer has pulled out and stolen from other artists' work and
yeah,
things. That's not the future. I'm sorry, Oh, I'm not sorry because that's ludicrous.
yeah,
Art for me is, somebody actually has to do it, not an algorithm.
yeah, yeah. And again, that was just another avenue I wanted to go down. I wanted it to be as real as it can be. So there's no bells and whistles. There's no kind of producer. There's no, like, I edit and, it's a little bit slapdash with the editing and stuff. And it's real. And I'm not
Yeah.
going to not be real. I'm going to keep it as it is because I think, it's a niche that I don't want to say this out loud, but I'm going to say this out loud. There's not many more podcasters that do it the way that I do it now. So yeah, and maybe that's why I'm getting so much traction this early because it is genuinely
Genuine.
positive. Yeah, it's genuine and it's yeah, it's a reframing. So I don't know.
Well, there you
Anyway,
go. I mean, when people ask me when I have interviews to do with the film after its release, I'll be like, "Oh, Lizzie, why do you do?" Well, no one else could be bothered, or um, it had to come, it had to be made the way that it did because let's face it, if it had been left to the people who are currently doing things in film and TV in this country, maybe in 10 years, maybe somebody like me would come along.
yeah.
But that's wishful thinking, and wishful thinking gets you nowhere.
And you what, like people like us. This is going to sound a bit big headed, and I'm not big headed at all. But we
I know
need
I would say you came across that way. Don't worry.
we need more women like us, people like us that genuinely
Mm,
want to make a difference to the people that are suffering. And I call them the people that don't have a voice or they're not able to, speak for themselves because for whatever reason, they can't. And I think we need more conversations and more films and more documentaries. We need more like
mm.
reality. Like there's so much reality TV and it's all just a load of nonsense if you ask me
Oh, I
because
know,
because
right?
it's not actually reality like we can all watch. It's not and I'm just like, oh, so
One thing I need to say
yeah.
on that link to that topic, but I'm not plugging myself or anything.
Well, you can plug yourself because we're near the end
No,
now.
no, no. I I
Sorry, I
was
had to
at
say it.
no, it's cool, I get it.
Yeah.
When I sat in on, after we'd filmed the festival, I obviously it's a film festival, I'm gonna sit down and watch some of the films that people have made, right?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, the representation of films, even the short films, they get it right because the people involved are, they're on the same page, right? Do you get the odd film where it's like the fever dream of like someone who's neurotypical or non-disabled, and maybe that's not the best genre or the best way to get that message across? Because if I had to choose between Arty Farty and a film that is more like something people are going to go see, the latter will always spread that message further because people want to go see a movie, not something that would be better in a theater. You
Critically
know,
acclaimed. Is
you
that
can
what the
have the
word is?
same, yeah, you can have the same learning difficulties, or just disabled people,
Mhm.
the same actors, the same message in a different audiovisual format, or a different medium, let's say, rather than say theater to moving images.
Yeah,
Um, you can still have that message, but you're going to reach a lot more people
yeah,
if it's coherent and in an audiovisual style that we're just more used to seeing, and then working within that. And I think that is kind of like particularly drama and things that are, they're not, then they're fictional, but the message is still real. um I did see a lot of films, short films, long films, and I think if you go away now and anyone go away and Google films to do with neurodivergence, a lot of the trailers tend to be very obscure and arty, whereas with mine it'll be a bit more like a normal documentary trailer.
yeah,
And I feel that way, the importance of what we have spoken about, more people will go, "Oh, I'm more used to seeing a trailer like this. I will give this my time because it's not trying to be clever. It's just saying we went away, we got the facts, and now, this, uh, you will now learn more about this." In the same way as if I'd made a film about making pottery or something, right? In a way that will be understood by most people that understand what a documentary format or a film format is. So I just want to make that clear that again, we're still, in terms of not being seen or heard, that's another invisible barrier because people, we do unfortunately get a lot of like art school grads that think, oh, whatever, right? I mean, cool. I've got like a master's, undergrad. Fine, okay, I'm going for a PhD, but I wouldn't want to go, oh, I'm going to go make a neurodivergent superhero movie and it's going to be in 4:3 aspect ratio in black and white, and half of it's going to be like, don't watch it if you're epileptic. There's too many people like that in the world wanting to make films. And it's like, if honestly, you have to get your message across. You still have to work within guidelines and boundaries to a degree. You can't just make woke garbage and expect people to pay attention to you.
yeah,
If you make a film that is coherent on a movie,
yeah,
like if I'm going to the cinema to see a documentary, it better be a documentary film,
yeah,
not some art project.
yeah.
I hate it when people say, "Oh, tell us about your project, Lizzie." I'm like, it ain't a project; it's a movie, because it is.
Mm,
It's not. It's not. Yeah, it's going to be comprehensible, and more people will pay attention, and then it's worth the time of the people that actually were interviewed, the places that I did go that were welcoming.
yeah,
It's also, it makes it worthy of the time of the person watching it as well.
yeah,
I don't want people coming into a movie that I've made if it's a waste of their time,
yeah,
or I'm gonna preach a woke message. No, people want escapism. They want to be entertained. Or in a documentary, if there's a problem, and there is a problem with neurodiversity or when I say disabled, I mean
yeah,
not outside of neurodiversity. Um, you know, there's very real things happening that aren't being said
yeah,
or discussed, and it's hurting the everyday lives and the employment of people, real people that aren't being treated as people or seen as people. They're just seen as a problem. Oh, don't employ them then.
yeah.
It. Oh,
I
that's what I'm doing.
I actually find that more so with my fibro because it's invisible. Um, So,
Mm.
I have pain all of the time, but I'm really comfortable if I'm showing that I'm in pain, because it's almost like I mask the pain, if that makes sense, because there's so many other people that have, it's almost like they can't comprehend, like I said about what, you're in pain 24/7. Yes. They're like, and because of them things, it like advocating for my physical mobility. And when I've gone to things and I'm like, I need to sit down because I can't stand up for long periods because the pain starts almost like instantly. So, and like the funny looks up and down, like, well, you don't, and I know what people are thinking, you don't look disabled. Well, just because I don't look disabled doesn't mean to say that I'm not, you know.
I when people say you don't look
Yeah,
disabled
you
enough,
don't, yeah, what
like, how do they know? They're not
exactly.
deaf.
What does it
I'm like,
look like? Just because I'm not in a wheelchair doesn't mean, and I'm not suggesting that there's anything wrong with being in a wheelchair, please, because, I think it's really important to kind of just highlight every kind of disability and neurodivergence and stuff. But, I think for hidden disabilities where, they're not obvious, it's really
um,
hard to kind of, for people to take you seriously. Like, I've had to it's just, even just trying to get a blue badge, like I had to go and have a face-to-face assessment. And I think there's been progress within the medical world recently in the last few years, because fibromyalgia is, I think, now classed as a debilitating, like, long-term illness that people,
um,
are not, it's not ever going to get better. And I know there's been people that have campaigned for that and advocated for that as well.
um,
So it is a bit easier, but I think general, like, people's perceptions, it's almost like you have to prove, I have to prove that I have fibro because I don't look disabled.
mm,
Well, that's because I don't feel safe enough to show you my pain, because I've had so many, what do you mean you're in pain? Take some painkillers. Well, painkillers don't always work. But it's a conversation for another day.
mm,
It's like, opiate-based medication makes chronic pain worse. And I've not just got fibro, I've got osteoarthritis and my spine is crumbling and this and that. And I get like nerve pain in my face and stuff. But the best
um,
thing for that high level of nerve pain is opiate-based medication. Whereas, the pain specialist said opiate-based medication is making your fibro pain worse. And I'm like, but I don't know which way to go then, because, they're the guidelines, but I've got complex. I call it medically interesting rather than complex. But it's like, it's like a full range of different pain that needs to be treated in different ways. But everyone medically that I've seen just wants basically people with fibro to take no painkillers at all. And I'm like, but how are you meant to function? Like, I take the minimal amount possible because there's so much kind of judgment from doctors, specialists, and the amount of women and men with fibro that have gone on to be diagnosed with complex PTSD or PTSD because of, for medical reasons, is through the roof. It's almost like every person I've spoken to that's either diagnosed or waiting to be diagnosed with fibro, um, has some form of PTSD because their pain is not acknowledged and understood. And,
um,
it's insane, and it is a battle. You have to go to battle. So if you've got if you're medically interested, then, like, literally just don't give up the fight. Fight
um,
what you deserve. And but yeah, that's a whole another story that we could talk about for the next 2.5 hours, because it fascinates me. I just think, the pain, kind of chronic pain, persistent pain is the latest thing they want you to call it. Um, yeah, it's just, it is,
I always carry a card in my, in my phone case. We all use that for purses now, don't we,
yeah,
and wallets and things. It has a card that has, just let you know that this is an official UK card. It tells you what what I made it like, if there's an accident or if I'm in an accident and I'm acting suspicious or strange, this is why.
Yeah.
Also, if I like to say to people, have a pin or have, in your case, like a lanyard or something that just says, look,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not all visible.
Yeah.
Um, it just saves time,
Yeah.
and
It's sad
it's a
that we
part.
have to do it.
Yeah,
It is sad that we have to do it, but at the end of the day, we keep doing it because that's the only way we can get other people to understand that just don't get it.
yeah. People say you're okay saying you're autistic, and I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I mean, it's part of who I am. I'd rather be me than anyone else on the planet. So
Yeah.
yeah, duh.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
even when I was a kid, I looked up to people, but I never wanted to be anyone else apart from myself because I'm here.
Yeah.
And it's up to me to do, what I'm doing and
Yeah.
things. So I don't let it define me, but I don't try and hide it from people. So when I say I mask, um, I think we do it subconsciously when we first meet people,
Yeah.
and then when they get to know you,
Yeah.
yeah, usually in a conversation these days, people ask you, "Do you have any allergies? Do you have any reasonable adjustments or requirements?" I don't like the term reasonable adjustments because I feel like it gives an employer an excuse not to employ you because we can be reasonable to a degree. Well, where's that line? There isn't a standard line of what is too reasonable and reasonable enough to be met to employ that person. If we say requirements, well, you will have no choice but to do that requirement. And 9 times out of 10, these aren't things that are impossible. It's just the people, employing just don't wanna deal with it. It's just that British sort of laziness that we all have, and I trip people up on it when I see it happen to other people or someone that can't get to the loo because there's a production truck halfway across the studio. I'm like, everything stops right now for this one person.
Yep.
I'm not having it that they can't use the loo.
Yep.
Little things like that, just
Yep.
because they're in a chair. No, I'm not having it.
Yep.
Everything stops now. Um, and that's just the way I roll, basically.
Yeah. And I love that because it's person centered rather than money related. We all need to work because we all need to pay the bills.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like I've always been the type of person that works to support people or to help people, not to make money. I'm just not that way inclined, and I think particularly like some social media stuff that I see, like the sensationalized, is it clickbait? That specific words that people
Oh, like,
use.
hey, gaslighting
Yeah,
people.
horrific, traumatic, like ADHD in women is traumatic. Yes, it can be, or being a late diagnosed woman
Mm.
is traumatic, but that's just one part of the story. And you've got two men sitting talking about neurodivergence, ADHD in women when there's no women's voices there. And I'm like, and you're making money off of this.
Oh, I know, right? That annoys
I
me.
can't. I can't. And then I end up getting in heated debates because I like to, you know, yeah, I say what I think. But yeah, I've had to kind of take a step back and unfollow. And if anything comes up, I just on my social media, I don't watch it.
Yeah, I'm the same.
I just
I
think,
hate it when people that are visibly seen um, do and say things that could upset somebody, or they specifically target a certain group of people or a minority. I won't give any names, but we know who they are,
yep,
and it's kind of like, wow, you have this platform to inspire people and to entertain or whatever reason you have this platform that they like. It's usually a positive thing. But then they'll go out and diss a couple of people because they've never been touched by that situation. Um, like, in a way, I'm kind of glad because now I know what, the kind of person they are and not to bother with them again. Or I just kind of wish that people did keep things to themselves because if I said something hurtful to someone, in my eyes, that would be unforgivable because I would have hurt them and then the damage would have been done. And there's a lot of that right now. Certain people who write popular kids' books that need to shut their mouth on social media, for example.
Yeah.
Um, it's like I have a blacklist of people I won't work with. And let's just say we can guess what names are on that blacklist.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
since we've been having this conversation, I'm actually quite glad that some of the people that I reached out to and messaged or emailed ghosted me or didn't respond because I'm glad because actually what I was trying to do is get the messaging out there when the podcast first started, but it's naturally just doing that itself, like it's taken on its own traction and it's doing what I set out for it to do without any kind of external help. So I'm glad that there was no
Mm.
response, and I'm glad that, people didn't email me back or they didn't comment on, when they didn't reply to me and stuff. So yeah, I'm quite glad because it's just
Mm.
this is more kind of people centered, more real, and
We know.
yeah. Yeah. So, yeah,
Absolutely.
and it's taking on a life of its own, obviously, and it's just naturally kind of growing. So,
I prefer a real conversation than, it's almost like some people go on a podcast these days and they're constantly performing and nothing you see is real. And I don't know about you, but
I don't know,
sometimes I just know they're not being
I
genuine
switch
and I
off.
just zone out.
Yeah, switch off.
Mm.
Maybe that's why this is taking up so much traction then, because it's
Real
yeah,
people.
we're just being ourselves. We're just, being ourselves and having conversations, and clearly there's a need for it, a massive need for it, because otherwise I wouldn't have got 112 people that wanted to kind of be a guest. So yeah,
I would imagine from different backgrounds, different professions,
yep,
but with some kind of experience or knowledge on ADHD or any kind of neurodivergent,
yep,
they're aware or they know someone and
yep,
or
yep,
themselves have a
yep.
diagnosis. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I always say to guests, you don't have to talk about anything if you don't want to. It is a lived experience kind of storytelling podcast primarily, but you only
Mm.
talk about things that you're comfortable sharing. You don't have to, like, I don't mind talking, I talk about anything, I don't really care. But that's me, and I know not everyone's like that. So yeah, I just try and make people feel as comfortable as possible. And like I said, if they've said something that they want me to edit out, a few days after we've recorded, then I just take it out. It's as simple as that. So, I just want to make sure that everyone is kind of comfortable and confident enough just to have conversations like we've had today. So yeah, it's
Oh, 100%. I mean, um, oh, I know. It's like sometimes um, people, they want me to talk about neurodivergence as an example, ADHD or whatever, autism. Um, but they're more interested in like, tell us more about the process of making the film. Tell us blah, blah, blah. I'm like, can I first tell you why I'm doing this without trying to come across like I'm an advocate? Because I'm a filmmaker first and foremost. Because, as I say, I'm going forward. I won't be a documentary filmmaker.
yep,
I want to entertain people.
yep,
But I just noticed that wow, we could be doing so much more in any industry. And I was just like, you know what? If I'm a kid now and that's the world we live in and it doesn't get better, they ain't got a chance. So it's up to people like you and me, um, and you know, media or press, anything anything that can be seen or heard, yeah, it's wider reaching. So I hope someone lands on one of your podcasts or one of your posts rather than, AI cat videos on TikTok. Come on, what's more actually
Yeah.
important? I mean, I love animals, but you know, at the same time, there needs to be a platform for open discussion, and I like it when people in this country openly admit, you know what, we're not doing enough. And it's not about being seen to be doing more as a brand. It's, you know what? If it's not coming from a genuine place, it had better be.
Yep.
And you can usually tell when it's all to make them look good. It's not because they really care. And there's a lot of that in the British broadcasting scene. Not so much with the independents, but with the ones that you can probably guess who. Um, Whenever I ring them up, whenever I'm scheduling a meeting with them or I walk in their buildings, it's like hot coals. Lizzie, oh no, you know, because they know I won't be fobbed off when it comes to representation of anyone,
Yep.
and it's like, if you're going to do that, you better do it in a way that most people will go, that represents me. Because half the time nowadays, it's like anyone from any background that has the opportunity of, or the potential, I should say, of being any, like, unfortunately, like, something nasty happening to them
Yep.
or whatever, they're usually portrayed as like the victim, and victim mentality gets you nowhere. And also, they're usually portrayed as themselves being quite a difficult person to deal with, or they're doing something like morally not okay, or they're getting themselves in a rut, and most people will say, "Get a grip."
Yep.
And it's like, most characters that you see portrayed in these dramas and things, that's nothing like what that minority is actually
Yep.
like. So,
Yep.
ah, so when I see YouTubers like people like Nerdrotic, Disparu, the Critical Drinker saying things on about movies and Hollywood, I'm like, yeah, it's getting a bit silly,
Yeah.
and they don't really talk about what we're talking about, but in terms of force feeding and colorblind casting and things like that, and it does get a bit, yeah, it's not right.
I've got to just say, I have no idea what them things are, but I'm sure my partner would be able to fill me in on
I'm
what
sure
they are
he
because I don't have a clue. Half of the things that he talks about, I'm just like, and he knows we've been together for nearly 7 years now, so we kind of read each other like books, and he knows when I don't understand, and then he will give me an explanation. So, he is. But yeah, films, and things like that. Like, there's been a couple of things that he said, and I'm like, what? What does that even mean? And then now he just explains everything because he knows that it's not that I'm not interested in it. I'm just more interested in talking about ADHD than I am in
No, it's cool. Honestly, neurodivergent people, I have autism, right? I am more interested in the things that I'm interested in than
exactly,
things that I want. Most
exactly.
most of my friends love movies. Um, my family love movies.
I love movies and I've watched the
It
full
oh,
range of
it
them.
lucky.
Yeah, yeah, but I actually prefer a documentary, like a reality kind of, not a Married at First Sight documentary or something like that. But
What is it? Unscripted drama, that's
yeah,
what it's
yeah,
called.
no, I know. I mean, I've watched
Everything
them kinds of
is
programs,
based
but no, I
on
prefer like a documentary. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. Let's actually interview real people that are
mm,
experiencing real things that don't want to, portray themselves in any other way than just themselves. That's I like
yeah,
that kind of documentary because I think it's just interesting. But again, I mean, there's so many different genres of films that I've watched since me and my partner have been together that I never would have watched without him. And he's been an education for me because I'm unfortunately I'm one of them people that talks when a film's on. So I'm really sorry to my partner, but
Oh, so don't do it in the movie
no,
theater because
not in the cinema. It gives me a little bit of a, and I'm like, yeah, because I have to ask questions if I don't understand. But at home, obviously, it's fine because he just pauses and he's very patient with me because he knows that I'm going to have questions about certain things. But yeah, not in the cinema. I'm like, he's like, looks at me and he's like, or if the if the I don't know, the plastic popcorny thing, the wrapping is I'm making too much. He looks at me and he's like, we talk without words between I know I'm looking like that 'cause he's usually sitting next to me, but we talk without words and I know I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna
you know what, I love the one way of actually stopping that from happening is if you get those microwavable jiffy bags. They're about 29p
yes,
for like, and it makes more popcorn than you get in those little bags, and also no rustling because you pour it into a nice plastic container. There's no sensory gongy sounds. It's
yes,
quiet.
yes,
You can put as much salt on as you want.
yeah.
Yeah,
Good
I much
idea.
prefer that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, nearly 3 hours. We've been talking. We've been recording 2 hours and 43 minutes, and yeah, that's longer than a feature film. I know.
That's about the runtime of Avatar, the new one.
Yeah,
No, I think it's more than 3 hours. I don't know. And it's what I'd say we've been going like I feel like, it's just one camera movie, put it that way.
yeah. No, not as long as Titanic. That's over 3 hours, isn't it? But we've been here for a while now.
I've not seen that in a while, but it feels longer than it is Titanic, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
Longest film I've ever seen, I wanna say The Ten Commandments with Charlton Heston. I think that's 4 hours. And on top of that, there's an intermission.
My ass would be numb. Oh, I just said ass. My bum would be numb by that time. I
There's an
can't.
intermission.
Yeah,
It's never long enough to get popcorn.
I just can't sit still for that long either because I start. I just start fidgeting and stuff. So yeah, but yeah, one of the ways that my partner manages to switch my ADHD brain off and talking off is films and TV series that I get into, like completely obsessed. And then we talk about them, and I'm like, yeah, I think that's how we kind of have we get on so well because we've got very different
Yeah.
interests, but we're both because he'll ask me questions about ADHD all the time. And even like social media podcasters, social media influencers, even celebrities that say certain things, he'll get the hump about it now if it's about ADHD, and they're like, "Oh yeah, everyone's got a little bit of ADHD," and he's like, "No, they," and he gets on his soapbox about it, and I love it because it's just like
Mm.
we have different interests, but we also kind of it just I don't know, it just works really well. So, but anyway, yeah, nearly 3 hours that I've been talking to you, Elizabeth Victoria Evans. I'm going to say your full name because you said if anyone wants to Google you, then they can.
It's yeah, that way because when you Google my full name, um, the first thing that comes up is usually a nice little picture of me on the first page of Google. Nice little blonde picture of me, and then obviously the most recent news. Um, I think also at YouTube there's a video.
Yeah.
I think that's
I mean, I didn't look past the first few because I do like to do a bit of research. But yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. And I will post the links to your social media and anything else that you do going forward, that is, when you promote
oh
it.
yeah.
My brain's just farted now. I'm sorry. It's my brain is it's just gone. No,
This
stop.
is cool. Okay.
Yeah,
So just for those listening, I always at the end I always like to say that remember to what was it, like and subscribe and follow Emma at the ADHD Reframed project. Almost said podcast then. That's my autistic brain for you. And things like this. If you have listened to the end, make sure you share this with someone who you think would benefit from this conversation and other conversations like this on the same channel. Um, Yeah, and also my documentary film, as I say, we're still shooting now. So Where Do You Want Us is, as I say, it's currently in production, um, and obviously it will be very easy to find when that starts, coming out on press and things. It will be pretty straightforward. Where you can probably guess where that's going to be. So
Yep, and I'll promote it obviously when it comes out as well. I'm happy to do a little bit of promoting.
oh, it's very kind. I mean,
Yeah,
help people. I'm sure like this will help people.
yeah,
And the more people that produce content like this, uh, genuine, objective, um, meaningful, realistic conversations, and not celebrity self masking.
yeah,
Yeah, there's more value in things like this than most things
yeah.
these days.
Do you know, you just made me realise I don't do that at the end either. I don't really say like and subscribe or follow and share. Um, so yeah, maybe I don't know if I wanted to do that or not. I'm glad that you said it because I think it's important for that to be said. But it would feel a little bit weird if I said it. I don't know why. What is that all
Oh, I'm
about? I
sure.
don't.
Um, I think people. It's useful because people are used to hearing it, and I think it will go, oh yeah, I remember because you've mentioned it. I will subscribe to this podcast, so I will like the video or like the whatever it is, or I will repost this. Yeah, and then that way, you how do I put it? You're continuing that discourse that we've had, and
Yeah,
other people get to hear it. Because whenever you share something, there's always at least one person that will be introduced to it because that was the first thing that they got introduced to
yeah,
because someone just happened to share it.
yeah,
Um, and when it's important like this, it's like you know, it, it's like people are so used to it, we kind of have to do it. Not
yeah.
when we want to, but it does help spread awareness. I think.
Yeah. Well, maybe I could maybe just say something similar to if these conversations have resonated with you, or if you know someone that it would resonate with, then please do share with
Yes,
um, people that need to hear what we've talked about today. How is that? That's quite good, isn't
that's
it?
that's a bit more genuine, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because
I like
I
that.
don't want it to be like, "Oh, yeah, like and subscribe," not saying that this was what you were saying it like, I'm just gonna say because you weren't, actually said it beautifully, but I think I felt uncomfortable trying to work out my own words because
What you mean?
yeah, if that makes sense. So, yeah, yeah, so I'm just like, yeah, maybe I'll add a little bit of that in, at the end of each episode now.
I would. There's not enough content like this, and this conversation, I'm sure it'll help, even in just one person. And you and I have done.
Yeah.
It's worth a conversation, you know.
Yes. So, yes. Anyway, I need to get more comfortable saying this. So, to the listeners or the watchers, because it's video and audio, if anything that we've talked about today resonated with you, then please do check out other episodes. Oh, I feel like a newsreader now. I feel like
You really
it's
don't
weird.
worry about it.
Yeah, if you do know somebody that does need to hear these lived experience conversations that Elizabeth and I have had today, then please do share just to get the messages across so we can reach as many people as possible that need to hear it. So anyway, Elizabeth, thank you so much for your time today. Like
Thank you for having me.
2 hours and 51 minutes nearly. It's been an absolute pleasure. Um, and yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed meeting you, and I can't wait for you to let me know when everything's going to be advertised and going out on the TV and stuff. And you're going to be my claim to fame now. You know that lady that does that producing? I know her.
Okay, cool.
It's just little old me sitting here. Um, but my partner tells me off because he says it's not just little old you. You're actually doing something that's really important work, and don't belittle yourself like that. And I'm like, okay,
You do a lot, it's um yeah, it's important that we're doing like what putting time aside this morning to do that on Easter Monday. I mean, that shows that we're taking this
yeah,
seriously, right?
yeah, of course, yeah, yeah. It does, yeah, because I'm happy to have this kind of conversations all the time. But for today, anyway,